Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Crib, home of the Sports Crib Network. Well. Look here, I knew maybe it was just the luck of the draw with the win that came off Sunday, but we do have Demetrius back in town. Mr. Burgess, how are you doing tonight?
Mr. King, it's a pleasure to be back with you. I miss my guys on Thursday. I'm happy to be here, and that win on Sunday had everything. No, I'm just kidding. Sometimes real life and work interrupts, but I'm back in business now. I'm glad to be here.
Now, I know you were out of town.
Yeah,
No, you were out of the country, I believe.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that. I mean, with the Omicron and the different, things that are going on with different countries. I know I have a friend that just went to the United Kingdom
Yep. That's
uh,
what I was. Yeah.
on the 30th.
Yeah.
So I know there were more restrictions the first time she went than there were this time
Yeah.
because of the testing and whatnot. So
Yep. Yeah. So I'm double vaccinated with a booster. The company's got the right connections. There's a little more paperwork, but same thing in England. If you are vaccinated, they'll let you come to England right now. If there's enough money on the line. right? Right. If it's right for the company, they'll let you in. They'll let you in. So yeah. That one was sort of a big one that happens a couple times a year, but yeah, this is the busiest time for work in my real life, but I'm good today. I'm good Saturday. I'm back in business, and can't believe your boys are playing right now. I was like, I'm looking for that email to cancel. I was like, no, Mr. King dedicated.
hey,
He's doing it, man.
win, lose, or draw,
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
yeah.
Now, gentlemen, I don't want everyone to fall out. Make sure you got your smelling salts because we have someone here. At least I'm hoping it's not a mirage, but I
Oh,
think this is Mr. Clint Daly.
oh, 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 my man! It's been a minute.
It has. It has
It has
indeed.
been a minute. Clint Daly is back. And you know what? I don't think it's a coincidence. You know where the Lions are playing this Sunday, right?
I do. I do know where the Lions are playing this Sunday.
They're out in lovely Denver, Colorado.
They will be here. There's a chance they could be playing in snow. We'll see if what happens tonight and tomorrow.
Oh, nice. Oh, I don't think it's going to matter, but it's fine. you don't have to worry. You got nothing to worry about.
We have plenty to worry about.
It should be fun though. And 110-1 is such a awfully ridiculous record. But I will wait till we get there. My team's not a 110-1 team. They're not. And
Let me tell you how
don't
excited I was for you to win that game. Because if you don't win that game, I know full well what's happening this Sunday.
Right? You know where that party is.
So I was like, no, win, go enjoy, have a parade, do whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was rooting for you guys.
Yeah, we did all that. No, it's still a weird thing though with football. At the end of the day, it's people. It's still human beings, right? And you can't help but be happy for human beings when you saw those guys, man.
Yes.
So yeah, that's good stuff. And James's team is trying to give away a game. Oh, we got Don Hayes. I'm gonna get a Ranger Hayes sighting tonight. Yes.
Hey guys.
I need a Ranger Hayes sighting. It's been way too long. We're gonna get a bark around an hour 15 into the podcast, somewhere around there. Ranger's like, dude, I need to walk.
And last but not least,
there he is.
Oh, look out.
There he is. Full house tonight.
I am so excited. This is going to be a great night.
Well, gentlemen, let's kind of get straight off into it and talk about what I thought was very exciting news, and especially the way it was presented. But Tiger Woods is coming back to play professional golf, but the event that he is coming back in is a father-son event. Him and his son has played this before. The little man has quite a swing. I think at some point he might make us forget all about that. father son thing, and make his own name. And I'm pretty sure that we're going to see a lot of second shots are going to be from the Suns' his first shots and not Tigers. But Demetrius, what did you think about hearing just even the thought of Tiger being back on the golf course?
So Charlie's like 12, right? Is that what we're talking about? 12,
Yes.
13, something? So here's the thing I think though, and I'm not going to jump off quoting Bill Carroll in my first comment, but there is something around great athletes, and we generally talk about the pettiness. I think there's another piece that's ego driven. I think Tiger's game is probably just fine because Tiger Woods is not embarrassing himself. Eldrick Woods isn't going to go out there looking like a sucker. He is not. So I think we've been okie doke. I think his game is just fine. He's not tour level competitive. He's not major level competitive. He would smoke any one of the five of us right now. I can tell you that. He's not going to embarrass his dad, and he's not going to embarrass his son. But more than anybody, he ain't embarrassing himself. So I think he's going to be just fine. He's not going to try and be a shot creator or any of that. But he's going to have fun with his son. But don't look for some crazy highlight level duff or some major divots. Nah, he's still Tiger Woods. He's still got an ego. He's not coming out there looking like a fool. That's not happening.
What do you think, Mr. Daly? What's going on?
Hey, what Tiger has done in his career, the comeback that he's already had, this comeback, hey, he could have lost his life. He probably should have lost his leg. Dude is a legend. This just further testament to the drive that he has to get back out there. He's just such a killer mentally. He's going to find a way to get back out there because that's just who he is. I mean, he is up there with the greatest ever. That's just his mentality. That's just how he rolls. If he does come out and play, and I don't even care if he plays well, like Demetrius said, who knows how he's going to play. It doesn't even matter. If he gets back out there and competes, you got to put him in that realm with like the Mario Lemieux and the George Foremans and like personal comeback. That's one of the greatest ever to come back from what he's coming back from. Honestly, the only thing that could derail this story, and I guess it's something we could look into and find out, is he driving himself to the event? Because I'd be worried about that. But otherwise, it's amazing what he's doing.
I think it's out here in California. I'm pretty sure.
Make sure you get an Uber is all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing to me that he can pass through a machine without it. I mean, the man has more pins and what he's got shoulder pins, elbow, knees. How does he get through security? I mean, but that's a whole different question. What do you think, Don?
Yeah, he's been through a lot. He's like this generation's Ben Hogan in a lot of ways. Very resilient. I've always been a Tiger fan. I hope he has a good performance. I'm looking forward to watching his son swing the club also. But yeah, he's one of these once in a generation talents that pops up. And, we talk about are his best days behind him? Probably so, but there's good days. He's still going to have some good days ahead of him also. I remember Jack Nicklaus went dormant for, 6 or 7 years. All of a sudden, he won 2 or 3 in a row. So we haven't heard less of Tiger Woods.
Bill, pre-sequel to the Masters? I mean, I'm sure he's going to make an appearance at Augusta.
God, I got lucky. He waited to unload that one on me.
They dropped
I don't know. I mean, in the back of his mind, he'll always think he can win the Masters. The same way in the back of his mind, Michael Jordan thinks he can take anybody in the league. Game 1, right? Yeah. It doesn't have to be true. It's in there. Like, that's just pre-programmed. He is going to play well. The thing to notice is he doesn't have the length. I mean, that's the – oh, there we go. There we go.
I knew it.
Now it's the show.
Early.
Now it's the show. But the thing you're gonna partially because he hasn't been in the weight room, and partially because he's getting older, and partially because, as was mentioned, he was in an accident that could have possibly altered, if not ended, his life. So the length won't be there, but the touch. I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and say there are going to be some moments where he looks like Tiger Woods. Oh, we're like, oh, wow, that looks like Tiger Woods. Part of it's because he is playing with his son, and he wants his son to see, oh, I still got a little something left in here. He jokes about, like, Charlie carrying him, and there's a part of that, that is pride and all that good stuff, and there's a part of him that's like, yeah, I'm gassing him up a little bit, but get ready. He's probably probably another whole calendar year away from being able to be competitive against the best of the best again. But I think he's got one more run left in him. I don't think it's this year. I think it's going to take another, take some time. And when I say a run, I don't mean dominating golf. I mean another run of scaring some people, right? Making some people nervous, right? Day 3 of some nice tournaments. Maybe he'll win another major. I mean, it's a tall order. Even if he hadn't been through all this stuff, at this point in your career, it's a tall order to win a major, especially since his game is still evolving, right? He doesn't have – I mean, remember when we first saw him and everyone was like, holy crap, what's he doing? Like, he was doing things that nobody could do. And then a generation of golfers went to school on him, watched him. Oh, I'm going to eat differently. I'm going to train differently. I'm going to do all these things differently. And even some older guys got into better shape. Remember when Lefty dropped about 22 pounds, started, wasn't just taking steak and then putting it between 2 donuts and eating it anymore, that kind of stuff. And, guys were changing. Right, that's what I'm saying. Guys were changing the way they ate and did other things. And obviously for the older guys, it maybe have the same effect. But a whole generation of golfers said, oh, golfers can be athletes. Okay, right, bet. And now we've got guys that look like Sam linebackers on the freaking tour now. I mean, we've got guys who are like, what is Shambo up to, like 238 or something crazy?
40, yeah.
He's a monster. He's an absolute monster. If you saw this guy from behind, golfer would not have been your first guess, right? So that's all his. That's all him, right? That's all him. That all this stuff that's happened to golf is because he revolutionized the game. And so now he's, going up against, they're all his children to some extent. He's now facing all of his children whenever he plays the competitive round of golf nowadays. But I think that this year is going to be about fun. This year, he's going to play in tournaments he wants to play in. He won't play in tournaments he doesn't want to play in. If he feels great after day 1, he'll play day 2. If he feels bad after day 1, he'll be like, well, I tried and leave, right? I think he's finally gotten to the point where, not to say that his ego is disassociated from his game of golf, because that's never going to happen, but it isn't life or death anymore, right? Because he's now faced life or death.
Well, he got humbled. He got humbled is what happened, right?
Right, and once again, golf he had an actual life or death challenge. Yeah. So now he sees this. Golf isn't life or death, right? Trying not to double bogey isn't life or death. Trying to make the cut isn't life or death. Life or death is life or death. So watch for him to have more fun than he's had in a long time playing golf. Yeah. And then the year after that, if he's gonna do something crazy, I think it'll be the next year. It'll be 2023, 22, whatever. I keep forgetting how the golf calendar works, but another year away from this season.
Yeah. No, I don't think he'll ever come back full time. But I think he will.
Well, he doesn't have to come back full time. He's still Tiger Woods, though. He always do it once.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have an exemption for the Masters. So I mean,
right.
he's going.
He just needs a handful of dudes like you to keep saying that. That's all. He's sitting there going, "Oh, okay, who's James King? James King III. It wasn't James King. It was James King III that said that about me. Okay, he's got your name on the list right now, like on a poster, and it's dead. James King III. Okay, I got that. That's how that dude lives.
Yep. Oh man. Well, Mr. Daly, let's talk a little bit how things have been with you. Your Denver Broncos kind of up and down this season. I think we haven't talked to you since baseball season.
Been a minute. It's been busy for sure. Got one son in college, and got my daughter in high school and playing high school basketball. So it is a busy world right now. The Broncos.
What's her game like, Clint? Like, give me an idea of what kind of player is she?
She's a coach's kid. She's not overly athletic, but she is a shooter.
There we go.
She can shoot it.
Love it.
She's on JV, and the varsity coach has said you might be the best shooter in the program. We just have to develop the rest of your game and get you up to speed. But no, she can shoot it. So yeah, we'll see how she does. She's having fun. She's a really, really good student. So basketball is not her most important thing, but she's enjoying it and she loves being a part of a team and everything like that. So that's good. As far as the Broncos,
tell that coach, she doesn't have to develop the rest of her game.
Right. Just go shoot.
Get buckets.
Get the ball in the basket.
you might not be Steph Curry, but you might be Seth Curry.
Right. You just have to be Seth Curry. Seth has a job, so you just have to be
Seth has a very nice job.
Yes, he does. The Broncos, the Denver Broncos, I believe, and you guys can tell me I'm wrong, I believe they are one of the worst teams in the league. So if you're taking all the really terrible teams, I don't know that they're the best of them, but they're up there. They're in the mix, at least, for the best of the horrible teams.
We'll find out Sunday.
Well, yeah, and I'm genuinely concerned.
Well, we will definitely get down to talking about those things also. Maybe we'll also get a chance to get you on Saturday, John, and talk about some of the victories. But that's another thing. Let's talk about some of these coaching changes. The first one that comes to mind to me is, of course, Mr. Cristobal going back to Miami. He played high school football there. I believe he also played for the University of Miami.
Oh, not only did he play there, but when he was on a team that had Baraka Atkins, a guy that you would know as The Rock. I mean, it was a fun team. Steve Walsh, I believe, was the quarterback. It was a wild bunch. He played with a really interesting bunch of dudes at Miami. I think Brett Perryman was there. I mean, it was a wild team. I think they lost 2 games in his 4 years there, or something crazy like that.
Oh, okay. We knew that you would have all of the stats, Bill, so that's why I kind of delayed coming to you for a minute there. But go ahead, Mr. Daly. And we also forgot to tell, how's the Daily Show going?
The Daily Dose is rolling along. This next week we'll be celebrating our 7th anniversary.
Wow.
We've been cruising along and just staying very busy. This last week I had a former coach, longtime high school coach here in the state of Colorado. He's a very, very good interview. Just talked about all things sports. So feel free to stop by the Daily Dose. As far as Cristobal, I mean, I think he'll do very, very well at Miami. He knows that community. He knows the expectations that go to playing at Miami and all that goes with it. But there is one caveat. If they find the University of Utah on their schedule, forget it. They're getting beat like they've never been beat before, because those 2 games this year were combined 76-17. They weren't that close.
Yep.
I believe that Utah probably could have scored like Cumberland. Like this could have been Georgia Tech Cumberland Gap kind of game. So do not schedule Utah while you're at Miami. That sounds weird, but don't do it. Don't fall into that trap.
Bill, what's your thought on the Cristobal hire? I mean, we know he knows football, but does Miami need actually a culture change?
Well, okay, so culture is a term that really has become a nice little football buzzword in the last decade or so. Here's what I can tell you. And when we first got introduced to Miami, because Miami's playing football for a while, but nobody noticed, right? Nobody really knows how Schnellenberger got there. And what he did, he comes from the NFL. He says, I'm going to go out and get these kids that, first of all, would never have been even allowed to view the campus, right? Forget attend the school. They were not allowed to tour the campus, right? He gets these kids and says to the president, to the provost, to the various deans and department chairs, I'm going to need you guys to basically turn a blind eye to everything that goes on in this football program. And if you do that, I will build a machine here. And they cut a deal, right? Miami was very much an academic institution prior to this. And they suddenly, do a lot of what's called special admits, right? Special admissions of guys that, would not have been Miami students previously. I'll put it that way. And the culture starts to turn into, first of all, it's like us against the world, right? Everybody does that because that's the first thing you do, right? So you have the us against the world thing. And at first, they're climbing up, right? So Florida's above them, Florida State's above them in the state. Well, that changed in about 3 years, right? In about 3 years, they won the state of Florida and they set their sights on the rest of football America, right? And by about 1988, they could beat pretty much any college team you wanted to set in front of them. And that was also the beginning of the Catholics, quote unquote, Catholics versus convicts thing, right? You have Lou Holtz, right? By that time is taken over at Notre Dame after Jerry Faust, who was a very nice man and actually a better coach than people seem to realize, but he wasn't winning national championships. So, and they bring in Lou Holtz, and Lou Holtz, once again, culture, right? We use that term, but he said, this isn't just for good football players and smart kids, because that's what Notre Dame had kind of settled into for a while. No, we're going back to being, a dominant force in college football. Well, right around that time, right, Jimmy Johnson has been, wined and dined and cashed also, I guess, away from Oklahoma State. And he arrives, so a couple of years in, they start doing this thing, and this becomes the most watchable, the most must-see college football games in America are, like everybody in the world, everyone developed a rooting interest. Like I watched everybody, but I didn't care about Miami until that. Suddenly the Notre Dame thing made me watch, right? Made me watch. They became must-see television. I'm watching everything Miami does from that. And so the culture at Miami became swagger, dominate, celebrate, party with Luke, right, at various and sundry gentlemen's clubs, and maybe bags of cash show up in your locker, maybe. So this is this wild, almost outlaw culture, right? There's been some stuff going on there, but obviously there's been several, I guess at least 2 30 for 30s done about the program. And so when Johnson leaves seamlessly, Erickson comes in, and guess what? They keep winning. In fact, they winning percentage went up a little bit, right? They were for about a 4-year run the most successful college football program in America. Like it wasn't even it was close-ish, but nobody was that close. There was people like maybe 3 or 4 games, behind them in terms of winning in that period. But they were the winningest program, and they were a couple of little ticky-tack calls from winning 3 or 4 national championships in a row at one point. So, yeah, an absolute monster killing machine. And then Butch Davis, Larry Coker were successful coaches, but with each sort of step away from Jimmy Johnson and Dennis Erickson, where it was a very wild, it was a ride. As it got tamer, right? Their graduation put up.
That's Demetrius letting you know that he wants to talk to.
No,
okay.
I love the history lesson, but I honestly want to know what you think about Cristobal.
I have a lot to say about So let me say this about. I'm glad you brought up Cristobal. So Cristobal was one of those guys that, he was not one of the wilder of the wild, right? He was a little more. But he was there for it. He knows what was going on. He knows.
But the question, Bill, is can he change the culture of the University of Miami football?
Well, he's already kind of changed it just by taking the job. Just by taking the job. Now, the problem with trying to live in the past, and as a USC fan, I can, once again, you can do a whole show on this, but I won't. But the problem with trying to go backwards and not forwards is it's gone, right? You can't, the old proverb goes, you can't step into the same river twice. That the water you stepped into before is gone. The culture will change, though. He's going to really focus on rebuilding their offensive line. He's going to really focus on making that a tougher program. He's going to really focus on, frankly, trying to bring back some of that, right? I mean, he's a big dude. He's a former O-lineman. He's spent a lot of time at Alabama. He understands how to build in the trenches. And if you want to identify one single thing, along with the whole swagger thing, though they are trying to do it, it's kind of fake now. But their offensive and defensive line play is just meh, right? It's just meh. And those offensive lines, particularly the defensive lines, in the best years, they were just dominant. They were too deep with NFL guys in the old days on the D-line. The starter and the backup were both going to get NFL checks. Now, the starter might be drafted higher, but the backup was going to at least be a primary, like an undrafted, like a guy that's going to be signed early in the undrafted free agent signing period, or maybe even a late draft pick himself. That's gone. So he's going to bring that back. They're going to be better.
I think they have a bigger problem, though, Bill. I'm sorry to interrupt. I think.
Yeah, go ahead. No, please.
There's a problem. There's an elephant in the room to me that I think I can't get over. Right? They hired Mario Cristobal before they fired Manny Diaz.
Yeah, now that was I guess that's that outlaw mentality again, huh?
That's to me the thing that that never goes away. You think other coaches recruiting going, that's how they treat their coaches, right? And guess what? The way this works, and I'm not a mind reader or special, one day might be 2 years, 8 years, 15 years. They're going to fire Mario Cristobal, and they're probably going to treat him the same way. That's what the culture, that's how it permeates outwardly. And that gets to recruiting coordinators, and that gets to assistant coaches. Do you want to work there? That's how they treat their coaches. And for me, that is the statement that I don't know how if I'm Florida State, I'm telling that story in every living room. You know what they did to their coach? This is a guy on the payroll because there's only one job description at the University of Miami that accounts for a head football coach. And they had another guy sign it when somebody else still had that job. In the community I work in, the real world of you can't do that. That's bad form, man. That is bad form. And I don't know how you get top assistants now. I don't know how you get top recruiting coordinators now. Maybe I'm overreacting. I'll let Don, you guys tell me if I'm overreacting. That's messed up. It's what that is. And it's not after dark, and I want to use another word, but it's too early in the show. But we all know what that was.
I only disagree with one thing you said. You said you're not special, and I disagree with that. You're very special.
My man.
Don, what do you think? What do you think? I mean, Demetrius brings up a very interesting point here. You hire one while the other one's still there. It's like it's kind of. No, it's not Cribbing After Dark. So
yeah. Slow your roll. I see where your head was going. We're gonna hold that one for about an hour. We'll come back. Don might go there anyway. We know how Don hates it.
I do agree with Demetrius. It is fucked up. I mean, there you go. No, but yeah. So the way it all went down, but you know what? That's just a reflection of what college football is today. You have to get recruits, because you're vying for the 4 positions for the playoffs. You're looking ahead. You have the NIL coming up where, you're paying your offensive lineman $50,000 a year now. You need a coach that can get that to happen. I don't know why he didn't stay at Oregon. I mean, you got Nike right in your backyard that will shell out the bucks for players. Yeah. In Miami, you got to compete with Florida State. In Oregon, you're the big dog in Oregon, but hey, he is a Miami guy, so I understand. Yeah. Replaces Manny Diaz, who in Texas football he's infamous for allowing Tyson Hill to run for a godzillion yards against Texas years ago with when Mac Brown was coaching. So there's that. I think Cristobal will change the culture at Miami. He's been there. He knows people. He knows where the bodies are buried. He knows where the money bags are. So I think he will. I'm not going to say he's going to turn around completely, but right now, Florida State is down and Florida is trending down. I think Miami is there to, they could get some of that very fertile recruiting area there in Florida. So I think he will bring a different culture of winning.
Yeah, and he's more than just a U guy. I think he's literally born and raised in Miami. He's a Miami guy. Like, legit.
Well, so is Manny Diaz, but
yes, that's true. It doesn't matter.
Diaz's dad was the mayor.
Right. His dad was the mayor. Yep.
Wow.
Fled Cuba and became mayor of Miami.
That's crazy. Yeah.
It's a good American story, but
and he was one of 4 FBS coaches who never played a single bit, not even a little bit, of college football.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. All right, Clint, do you want to get anything on Manny Diaz and Cristobal? I mean, I assume we'll get Mr. King back at some point, but I got the rundown, so we can keep it moving.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looks like you're running the show at this point. I think he saw the Vikings just scored again. So James, I think he just dropped
off. Damn these Steelers. Right?
I think James went off camera. James went off camera to go up Chuck in the toilet or something. This Steelers
that game is doing it to him. I think he wanted to talk Brent Venables next, which I'll jump in quick. I think it's a great hire, by the way. I think this is one of those, a lot of schools like to get their guy. We were talking Cristobal and those guys. This is an Oklahoma guy. He spent 10 years with Dabo at Clemson, though. So he knows what a good program looks like. And everything I've heard about him, he's like a leader and a motivator. And it feels like a good hire. They have a thing I read somewhere. They don't hire like coaches who've coached before. They hire first-time coaches. That's their deal. Other than Schnellenberger, I think it must have been the 80s or something. Where Schnellenberger,
late 80s, early 90s, yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, Stoops and Bud Wilkinson, all these guys had never been head coaches before. So they have this sort of thing that they like to do. And I thought, but I didn't know a ton about them literally until the day I decided, let me, and this looks like a good hire. I don't know what you guys think.
I think it is. I know Venables has had opportunities to be head before, and he's always turned it down. I think he was just waiting for the right opportunity.
He turned down Auburn, didn't he?
He turned down Auburn. He turned down South Carolina. He's turned down, by my count, at least 3 SEC jobs and at least 2 ACC jobs, and probably some I don't know about.
Yeah. I know that he was at Oklahoma before when he coached with Stoops.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they had a falling out. I know that Stoops, when his brother came back, he named him co-defense coordinator, and I think Venables said, you know what, I can't win in this situation, brother versus brother. Right. So he goes to Clemson, and then when Stoops steps down and Lincoln Riley takes over, Lincoln Riley ends up having to fire Stoops' brother.
Yeah.
I think he had a problem with the alcohol, I think. Something. That's the rumor anyway.
Yeah, James, we moved on to the Brent Venables hire. We were done talking about Cristobal and that Coral Gables fiasco. That's just my personal opinion. What do you think, Clint?
Well, Oklahoma feels like they got burned by Lincoln Riley. They feel like, hey, he left for the ritzier, the flashier job. I think they really wanted a guy that would be happy to be there, that wanted that job, because there have been rumors ever since Lincoln got there. Where's he going? Where's he going? He's going to Dallas. He's going somewhere else. He's leaving.
Going somewhere.
And so they were very, very concerned about that. I think they went and got a guy who was like born and raised in Kansas. He can live in Norman.
Right.
He knows on a quiet night, you sit around and you listen to the tractor rust. That's just what you do. That's how life is in Norman. Are you going to be rolling out Heisman contenders every year like you were under Riley? Maybe not. I don't know. But they got a guy who I think is a good fit for them and is probably going to be very, very good at what he does there.
Yeah, I think fit's the right word. I think he's a good fit for that job. I don't know if he's good for every job. He probably couldn't do Oregon or USC or something. I think he's a great fit for OU.
Yep.
It looks like it on paper. Can't hear you, Mr. King. You're on mute.
And he also is going to help fix their biggest problem, which, I mean, people make jokes about Big 12 defenses, at least in part because of Oklahoma. There are some good defenses in the Big 12. Just ask the other team in that state, right? They've got quite a good defense, but that has been long a bête noire for Oklahoma. And Oklahoma is at least okay, Lahoma. When they're at least okay on defense,
Breaking out the melody to the song. Sorry, go ahead. You caught me on that one. I wasn't ready.
Once again, I do have a theater background, but as long as they are like passable on defense, they're a dangerous team. The thing that's prevented them from being able to be a team that does win national championships has been their defense, and that's Venables, obviously, his stock and trade. So if he can turn that into we only give up 24 points a game defense, you're going to do something.
Good luck with that. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Because Bill has now thoroughly put this image in my head of him singing Oklahoma with the
with the troop,
where the wind comes sweeping down the plain and the corn runs high as the elephant's eye. Yes, I do know the song.
His night was going to go like that.
Here you said it was going to be a good night.
And this is, this is the guy that is an airborne ranger. Okay, so
as the saying goes, get you a man that can do both.
All righty, Billy Napier.
Yeah. Right? Oh my God! See, we've hit all around the fringes. Don has already taken us there.
We are not even at the dark. Ranger Hayes checked in. We got. I think I heard
some kind of
the dark yet.
I've heard some references to AA. I think I'm not sure. While I was gone. That's and life at the crib moves on. Yeah. So let's talk about Mr. Billy Napier. Listen, Clint.
Yes,
you want to talk about that hire?
I'll talk about that hire. Hey, let's be real clear. Florida wants to win. But let's be real clear about what is important in Gainesville, because think about it. Galen Hall did it a little. Steve Spurrier did it.
Yeah.
Ron Zook did not do it. Urban Meyer did it. Will Muschamp did not do it. Jim McElwain did not do it. At first, Dan Mullen did it, and then this year he did not do it. They want to score points. Yeah. They don't care about anything else. Score points. Well, Napier averaged 35 points a game when he was, with Louisiana. So that's good. Plus, it seems like he's a really, really good recruiter. It seems like he's a guy that's going to live and die with his recruiting. That seems like, a good fit for Florida. Are they going to win No, but they're going to start scoring points again, and that's going to make the Swamp very happy.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. It's tough because of the timing of when he got hired. I didn't mean just jump in, James, but he made some good points that made me think. He lost like 4 recruits in like 3 days. Guys decommitted. He lost a 4-star quarterback. A couple of defensive guys that just bounced.
And the top wide receiver just left. Yeah. Or is going.
He didn't even. He just said, "Hey, that's a cost of doing business." Yep. When your recruiting class goes from somewhere around 40 down into the mid 70s, that'll hurt. But it's only going to hurt now, because I think Clint's right. He's going to start recruiting the kind of players that can do what he does, and what that is score points. And I think they'd love to win. Like you said, they would love to win. But if they're getting exciting games, they'll be fine.
They'll live with
it. That's all they want.
What do you think, Don?
Catch a mid-drink.
Sorry, it's too nice. I'm sorry. It's just water.
This is the best sports crib ever, right? We're not an hour in, and this has got to be top 5. For real. This one's top 5.
No, but Florida is one of those programs you can't keep them down very long. They're, they're the flagship in that state. The state's very heavy with athletes to recruit. In the number 1 conference in the nation. So Florida I give it 2 years. They'll be back. I think Napier is the guy to do it. They do need some key players especially on the offense, but I think Florida will be fine. Now they're going to have to, compete with the usual suspects: Georgia, Alabama, LSU. Now you got Texas, Oklahoma coming in. So fasten your seatbelts, Billy Napier.
He's doing the second best conference in the nation. So
I do like to hire, but Florida going to Louisiana to get a coach, Bill?
Well, I mean, you go where you have to go to get coaches. I mean, that one. Right. I mean, that's not exactly a huge reach. I mean, but he's coached at Alabama, right? He's coached at Clemson. He's coached at South Carolina State, in fact. He's coached at Florida State. He's coached at Colorado State. He's coached at Arizona State. So he's been a lot of places, but he's been under a lot of really good coaches. He's coached with Tommy Bowden. He's coached with Dabo Swinney. He's coached with Todd Graham. He's coached with Saban. I mean, it's got a pretty good Jim McElwain. He has a pretty impressive coaching resume. And I remember him as a 2-time all-conference quarterback at Furman Paladins. So more and more of the coaches are guys I remember as players. I guess that's another advantage of living long enough. But he's going to do two things. One thing was just talked about. They're going to score more points. But two, he's going to develop some of those players. No offense to the previous coaching staff, but they seem to have fallen into a pattern of getting a bunch of 4- and 5-star recruits and then kind of putting them on the field. They were afraid to tell guys, we're not going to play you right away. They were afraid to develop guys, or not afraid to develop, but didn't prioritize developing them. They made promises, you're going to play right away. Maybe you won't start. We promise you'll play, right? Billy Napier's not going to make those promises. He's used to winning with guys that aren't 4- and 5-stars. And he knows that you can beat a team that's got more talent than yours if you're willing to do certain things. And if the players embrace certain things, and if they're disciplined, if they're smart, and if they're tough. So they are probably going to continue to leak some 4- and 5-stars. And they're going to backfill them with 3-stars, which is going to feel like losing, or feel like it's going to feel bad to the people that complain on, gatorboard.com and that kind of stuff. But I've come by here to tell you, you're going to win some games with those 3-stars that you wouldn't have won with some of those 4-stars and 5-stars.
If
those guys are going to appreciate playing for Florida in a way that some of those kids who were just trying to keep it warmed up till they got to the NFL, right? Because that's what some of those kids were doing that they had in Florida. You saw some of their corners make quote-unquote business decisions in certain situations, right? He's going to bring in those kinds of guys. He's going to bring in guys that are going to think about preserving themselves for the NFL. That's going to be out. So, yes, it's going to cost you some recruits. Sure it is. But I think he's going to build it back. I don't want to say build it back better. I think that's already been.
You don't want to say that.
I don't want to say that. But he's going to build it back tougher. How about that?
Yeah, there's a blueprint. There's a blueprint out there for him. I'm here to tell him it's in East Lansing, Michigan, right? You can take 3-stars, and if you develop them, by the time they're redshirt sophomores, they're playing like 4s and 5s. That's how you're going to.
Well, that's what Virginia Tech did forever. Right. They were a 2- and 3-star program.
There's a blueprint on how to do it, and Florida has to accept who they are, right?
Mike Gundy.
They are. You're not Georgia. You're not Alabama. You're not LSU. Accept that, and you're not Texas. So do it another way.
What were you saying, Don?
I said Mike Gundy, OSU.
Exactly.
3-star state right there.
Exactly.
Yep. And they get the occasional 4-star, but yeah, it's mostly it's a 3.25 star program.
And that's much like Michigan State. It's the same thing. Kids growing up in my state want to go to the other school. They want to go to the other school. And then when they realize the other school doesn't give a damn about people and it's the worst place in the world, they come to East Lansing. that was gratuitous. I'm sorry, Mr. King. Go ahead.
Oh, don't worry. Hey, we got a few of those coming in the show, so don't worry about it. as long as there's that mistake on the lake, there's always
Right.
going to be So,
And I don't care if they're in the playoff. They got one loss, and they know exactly who handed them that ass whooping.
Yes.
And I ain't gonna never let them forget it.
Nope, and you never should.
Don, what's going on here at Texas Tech? We've been talking about some homegrown coaches.
Joey McGuire.
Yep.
Now, I have some inside information on Joey McGuire. One of my teammates from back in college was his offensive line coach when he coached at Cedar Hill. He's at Cedar Hill, I think, close to 20 years, won 3 or 4 state championships. I've met Joey McGuire, good guy. I like him a lot. But I hope Texas beats him. But no, I think he's good. He's a good match for Texas Tech. We have some coaches here in Texas high school. It began many years ago with a guy named Spike Dykes who coached at Texas Tech and
only in Texas, Spike Dykes.
And his son is now the head coach at TCU, by the way, Sonny.
Yep.
We've known the Dykes family for many years. But Joe McGuire, he's in that same mold as like Art Briles, Jeff Traylor at UTSA, come from the high school, go to college. Great relationship with the coaching staff throughout the state. Very knowledgeable, knows kids. He's what they call a player's coach. So Texas Tech is just they upgraded by going with McGuire. I think that it takes a special person to coach in Lubbock, Texas.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this is so. I don't even know. I feel like it's just a shot at Lubbock.
Okay, but before getting further, have any of you other 4 been to Lubbock, Texas? If you've been to Lubbock, Texas, raise your
through
hand.
Lubbock. I've been through it.
I've
You've been through Lubbock. And what were your thoughts, Clint?
Let's get through it. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah.
Right.
But every person I ever knew who went to Texas Tech, they loved it. It's a party school. You got these cute little girls who couldn't get in anywhere else.
Here we go. What time is it? All right.
And I remember Mike Leach talking about the fat little girlfriends, but they're not all fat.
We need 12 minutes, Don. Let me talk for a little bit. We got to get 12 minutes, and then you can go off. No, I'm sorry. Fat little girls. Okay.
Bottom story, McGuire's a good hire.
Yep.
I love this hire. I'm going to jump in because I can't stand it. I like this concept, right? Joey McGuire called himself a high school coach coaching college football. He has relationships. He thanked the THSCA. He get it. He's a Texas high school football coach. That's who he is. And you want to talk about recruiting? Those relationships he has with those guys, that's how you recruit in Texas. When you stand up at your introductory press conference and thank the THSCA, right? Really? Do you thank his wife and the Texas High School College Association, right? The coaches? He gets it. He gets it because that's how you recruit. And I now understand that Lubbock's not the best place in the world. So he's going to need those relationships. I think this is the concept itself is smart. And a couple other schools in Texas have been doing this. They've been understanding that high school coaches can translate to college. I think this one might work out. This one sounds like a good hire.
What do you think, Clint?
Yeah, I would agree with these guys. This looks like a good hire. This is a guy who knows the state. He knows the recruits. He knows the coaches. He's been the last few years. He's been at Baylor and he's learned the college game. So it's not like he's going into the college ranks and going, I don't know what to expect. Right. I've only been a high school guy. That's not what he's doing. I mean, he was the associate head coach there, and we know how much they've kind of gotten that program rolling in the last 2-3 years. So he's not brand new. And honestly, I mean, you are in Lubbock. So let's say he's horrible.
Still in Lubbock.
I mean, they don't have, the expectations aren't like sky high, are they? Like, hey, if we get the Motor City Bowl, then we'll take it. Like, it's not.
Well, you get to go from Lubbock to Detroit. So. This fat little
You're that
girl
in for you.
Well, now just because it's called the Motor City Bowl does not mean. I mean, is it in Detroit for real, or I mean, because
I think it's changed now. I think
Yeah, I
that
was
was the
gonna-
Motor City Bowl.
yeah,
I think it's now called the Quick Lane Bowl, maybe
Yeah,
maybe the
beef.
Little Caesars Bowl or something like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it is played in downtown Detroit.
Yeah, but Motor City, has been has it been gone. Bill would probably still remember, but anyway. Bill, by the way, speaking of remembering, do you really think that people know who Kalen DeBoer is?
Kalen DeBoer.
Kalen DeBoer, yeah.
Well, I can tell you this much. There was a lot of buzz on the USC fan boards about him. So Kalen DeBoer has been tied in various ways to the Fresno State program multiple times, right? And while maybe not a big name in non-football circles, I guess, Kalen DeBoer is a very well-known name in football circles and highly respected name in football circles and has been for some time. Has been a head coach before, but only at smaller schools. Well, it's not smaller, but less well-known schools. First time was a head coach was at University of Sioux Falls, 2005, 2009, and did a good job there. Was at Cal State Fresno, which is the full name of Fresno, but did take University of Sioux Falls to 3, I believe, NCAAF championships. So has won at multiple levels. Was a wide receiver himself at Sioux Falls back in the day. Pretty good one for if anyone cares. But I remember him came onto my radar when he was at SIU. He worked with Nick Hill, who is now the coach, but Nick Hill was the quarterback at SIU. And I remember that great battle that he had in the FCS playoffs when Delaware and SIU met. We got to see Nick Hill battle out with Joe Flacco. So a really well-known and well-respected offensive mind, really good with wide receivers, and served in multiple capacities at Fresno State. Was a quarterback's coach, then an offensive coordinator, was at Indiana for a year, then went back to Fresno State as a head coach, and then obviously now is at Washington. But yeah, people who know football know who Kalen DeBoer is, and like I said, highly respected.
Anything you want to comment on that, Clint?
Just this seems like a guy that just knows how to coach. He coached at NAIA, was successful. He got Fresno turned around from what they were, got them rolling. I think his first year they went like 3-9. This last year they went, I think, 9-3. He just knows how to coach. Is Washington a different animal? For sure. That's going to be a much tougher situation. It's going to be much bigger on a bigger stage and that kind of thing. So it's going to be, but this just seems like a guy that obviously knows how to recruit, get kids to go to NAIA school, obviously knows how to coaches them up when he gets them. He's going to be probably decent up at Washington with a ceiling being, pretty high. But the good news for him is the precedent has been set by Don James at Washington. Yep. Whatever happens, you can just be a huge drunk if it doesn't work out. So,
boy, yeah, I have to get my music for Cribbing After Dark. I have to. But Don, what's your thoughts on Kalen?
I think it's an interesting hire. I don't know a lot about him because I don't really keep up with, what goes on the West Coast other than just a couple of schools. But I think that his resume is more than enough, apparently. I mean, he does know how to win. It's just taking up to that next level, Division 1A. So we'll see how it works out. But so many changes going on in the colleges and ranks right now, and it's like whenever a coach gets fired or hired, it just sets off a domino effect, and we'll see how this works out. But it's always rough your first year. You can ask Steve Sarkisian about that.
Don, what do you think about perhaps Chip Kelly returning to Oregon?
That, we know that Chip Kelly in that situation, he can be dangerous. He's done it before. Like I mentioned earlier, you got Nike, you got freaking Nike in your backyard who just they're showing all kind of money, and now that you have the NIL coming through and people getting big bucks, you're going to find out there's not a whole lot of schools that can keep up with that. I think, as they say in certain economic terms, the rich are about to get a lot freaking richer. But I put Oregon there just because of Nike. I mean, that's the premier, athletic apparel people in the entire world. So, I mean, good God. I mean, they got money, and then you have some of the tech people, up in the Pacific Northwest, and I think a beast might be building out there. Who knows?
Clint, what do you think? Do you think Chip Kelly's coming back to Oregon?
I mean, he could. I've heard the name Lane Kiffin thrown around for that job as well, which would be super interesting. I don't know how it'd work out, but Lane would love playing USC every chance he got. Right. But you know what? I would like to see if you got Chip Kelly on a lie detector, what would he tell Lincoln Riley coming to LA? Because I can't think it would be kind. Right. That is a tough place to coach. Yes, you got a ton of recruiting. You have boatloads of talent, and right now kind of untapped talent, but you've also got a ton of distractions. You've got a flaky fan base out there. Yeah. They'll show up if you're a national contender, but other than that, maybe they'll show up, maybe they won't. I would love to hear what he would really say to Lincoln. Say, hey, just so you know, coming in here might not be what you think it is. That is a tough place to play. It's not a coincidence that there's really, in the last, 20, 30 years, there's been one really good coach in that entire area, and that was Pete Carroll.
What do you think, Demetrius?
I think both the guys make great points. I think I'm not a Chip Kelly guy. I'll say that right up front. I'm not a fan. I have not been a fan. I thought he was a lot of hype and overrated and gimmicky. But Don makes the point that you can't get around, which is resources, right? With Nike, they have resources. He can pay his assistant coaches more than a lot of other schools can. You bring kids through there and show them 18 different jerseys, like neon and all black and spacesuits, whatever, because Nike can make whatever they want. The facilities. I can't imagine anybody has facilities better. There are probably some just as good. I know Boone Pickens did some stuff down in Stillwater and a couple other big donors, but they have the donor. They have the backing, the booster. And it's Phil Knight, and Phil Knight will give them whatever they need, and they will create 12 jerseys, one for each game, different styles. He doesn't care. And kids today, and I know I'm old man in black socks, get off my grass kid right now. They love that shit. Like they neon jerseys. They love it. I think it's horrific. They love that stuff. So when they go visit and they get a tour of Nike and they get free gear and they think of themselves that's the kind of stuff because it's about getting recruits and then it's about coaching them up. So if you can pay your recruiting coordinator more than everybody else, and you can pay your assistant coaches, the best assistant coaches, more than anyone else, that's how you develop a sustainable program. Even if you're Chip Kelly and your gimmicky offense, whatever. I'm just not a fan. And then Clint's point is even better. People in LA just don't give a damn about football. They just don't care about football, college or pro. That I don't know if anybody's going to debate me on that. Data show how many teams have moved in and out of that city. People in LA, to Clint's point, I get it. I'm not even mad at them. They got a whole lot on the menu, man. They got a lot of stuff they can do that me, right now, until sometime in mid-March, no, I'm in the house with the remote. It's too damn cold. So I'm going to watch football.
I mean, on any given Sunday, I can watch the Rams, the Chargers, and probably the Clippers all the same day.
I got Sunday ticket. I can watch all those games plus the basketball games, and I can pull up an old hockey game if I want to.
But yeah, but you might not. You might want to go see Jack Nicholson sitting down courtside. I mean, but as you say, L.A. is a city of entertainment. So any given day, if you have those choices, it's not a fan base. It's really more about the social climate. Who's going to be there? Who's going to see me at the game? Are they going to pan the cameras at me because there's no other celebrities there?
And
It's kind of
equally
the way it
importantly, though,
goes out here.
there's a bunch of transplants. You live in LA and your house is decked out in black and gold. You don't give a damn about the Rams or the Chargers.
I live in San Diego.
Oh, that's right.
I live in San Diego. But,
clarify that quick.
But if I lived in LA, you're right. It would still be.
You got a lot of transplants, so that's the difference. I think that's.
Yeah. I think Texas is also becoming like that. When you say, Don, a lot of transplants, but you still have that base.
I'll pretend to be. I'll do my impression of Don.
Right.
Well, no, I don't know what you would say. I don't know if Texas is like that.
Well, at some point, he was feeling bad about Oklahoma. We know that much.
He was just trying a gratuitous shot at Oklahoma. If you live in a part of the state other than Lubbock, you're fine.
He just doesn't want to drive through Oklahoma. Of course, I don't know. I don't know
why. Anywhere near the border of Oklahoma.
Yeah, of course, I don't know why he would want to drive from San Antonio to Lubbock either. So that's also a different, another question.
He told you he likes fat little girls.
Come on, then.
We're after dark now. My clock says 9:02. We can go for it. There you go.
Yes, Don. Don, we were talking about Demetrius was talking about how many transplants there are here in California as far as sports fans. Are you finding a lot of that in Texas now? It seems like that's another state that a lot of people are moving to.
Oh, from California? Oh yeah.
Well, not just from California.
I hear a lot about Austin. That Austin is
Michigan.
blowing up.
Hey, I would have to put up a hand for Austin myself. I know Austin's been rocking since I was,
I hear about Austin a lot. I hear a lot about Austin.
Yeah. I heard about Austin in the '80s and had to go through there, and I don't think it's much toned down since then as far as like the place to be. Don, is Austin still the most radical part of Texas?
Well, it is. Of course, well, let me back up. There's a famous bumper sticker that you see. It's called "Keep Austin Weird."
Austin Weird.
Yep. And Austin has always been kind of out there. I mean, you could, go get. I remember a guy got actually arrested for it. He was selling pizza with a special kind of mushroom on it. That type of stuff. And people have been smoking pot there openly before. Well, it's still not legal, but no one.
But the laws don't matter.
Yeah, but
I can vouch for the '80s if you need someone, but no, that's all right. Good.
But like when you go to football games, the downside is that people keep thinking Austin's the next California. We got we got these homeless encampments where people are defecating in the streets and taking leak. My son got an eyeful of a naked lady under the I-35 underpass. So yeah, so it's you take the good weird with the bad weird.
Wow.
But
okay.
Austin was a great place to live when you're in college. If I was raising young children, probably not so much. Probably live in Round Rock or Georgetown or Pflugerville.
All right, so Austin or Lubbock? That's the question.
I'll take Austin over Lubbock any day.
Wow.
Right, cool. Wow, that's awesome.
Okay.
The Bash Lubbock show.
He didn't flinch. He's like, oh, hell no. I think Austin over Lubbock.
But as far as Californians moving in, the neighbor over to my right, my neighbor across the street, and the neighbor across the street two doors down, they're all what I call economic refugees from California.
All right.
I would, I will say living in California is not the cheapest place in the world to live. But fortunately, right now I'm not in the market for teepees, but I am looking into tiny houses. Though. But no, that's another. But anyway, uh, guys, this question here, I've always wondered about this because a lot of times you see this doesn't always translate to Sundays, and I'm talking about the Heisman Trophy here. Uh, are we going to have the best Heisman Trophy winner, or are we going to have the most popular Heisman Trophy winner? Bill.
Well, we always get the most popular one. It is essentially a popularity contest amongst glamour players, which is why I'm excited to at least see Aiden Hutchinson at least get there. Ndamukong Suh, I will never fully be over the fact that he didn't win when he was clearly the best player in college football. There have been other years where defensive players have deserved to at least be finalists, and if not win, and they aren't usually even finalists. I am thrilled that we're going to at least get to see a defensive player who's had an amazing year be a finalist. They're probably just going to give it to Bryce Young, which whatever. If they have to give it to an offensive player, Kenneth Walker III to me would be the offensive player to whom you'd give it, because to use a baseball term, right, wins above replacement. Bryce Young, no offense, and he's a terrific player, but you take whoever the backup is at Alabama and you put him in instead, and they win. Maybe they lose one more game than they lost this year. You take Kenneth Walker away, we're talking about 8-4, 7-5, maybe. He is.
Watch yourself.
I mean, 8-4, 7-5 is probably going to go, but 8-4. He is such a difference maker. And it's funny because I was doing another show where somebody tried to say, but he was trying to argue against me saying Kenneth Walker by saying, but look what happens when, he was neutralized. And said, well, he wasn't really neutralized. He went 5 yards, only 4 carries. Where I come from, that's actually doing pretty well. Or 6 carries. Sorry, he went 25 yards to 6 carries. So that's 4.25, yards per carry. The issue was the 6 carries. And they said, well, they neutralized, took him. Yeah, and look what happened, right? Like that made my point. You can force Alabama to beat you other ways, and they'll beat you other ways. When Michigan State isn't able to get Kenneth Walker going, they go from being one of the best teams in the country to a very beatable team by other good teams. So I think he had the most outstanding year of any college offensive player. Now, if we were just going with the best player in the country, then
it's the question is the best quarterback.
Well, the question
should
should
down
be
that rabbit hole, didn't you, Bill? No, thank you.
Because we already have an award for best quarterback, you see. So that we shouldn't be focusing on that because there's already an award for best quarterback. So
he did win that tonight with the Maxwell Award.
And
the Maxwell's not for quarterbacks. The Davey O'Brien and the Unitas. Well, the Unitas trophy is specifically for senior quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And it's just another one for outstanding player, though.
Offensive. That I think that would have been one that I would have definitely given to Walker, but well, go ahead, Demetrius. What do you think? Since we're talking about quarterbacks here, go ahead.
I don't really give a damn about the Heisman. I guess it's cute and everybody likes it or whatever. It's meaningless, though. I just don't care about it. I think that there's a set of awards that were given tonight that I pay attention to. I want to know who won the Doak Walker. I worry about the Lombardi and or the even the Ray Guy Award. I care about those. The Heisman is as political as almost anything else, and I think Bill said it at the very beginning, which is it's a quarterback award. If you're a decent quarterback at a Power 5 school, you got a shot. I think I could align Bill I probably could have lined Bill or Clint up at Alabama quarterback, and they still would have went 9-3. That's how deep they are everywhere else. You guys know who I think should win the award, but the award is not best player or most important player in the country. It's not even most valuable player.
No.
It's certainly not best player. The best player in the country is probably a linebacker from Georgia. His name, Anderson, is that his name?
Oh, Nakobe.
Yeah.
No, Anderson was Nakobe is good too, but
Nakobe Dean. Yeah,
really,
but yeah, there's a few defensive players that deserve it more than probably any offensive
could
player.
be Kid Davis. It could be any number of guys. Could be Thibodeau. I have no idea. I'm not going to give anybody from Ann Arbor any credit about anything. So hell with that. I would never do that. So I know what the Heisman is, and I just don't really care that much about it anymore.
Well, that was another reason why I named it a quarterback award, because we all know that that's actually what it's all about. Don, your thoughts on the Heisman this year?
Okay, you asked me about the Heisman, or you asked me about the quarterback?
Well, okay, the quarterback. Let's talk about it, because as I had mentioned a couple weeks ago, my guy from Pitt got there. Of course, he's not going to win, but at least he has a seat at the table.
So, just going with what everyone's saying, anyone behind that offensive line at Alabama, those running backs, receivers, is going to look real good. You have a winning record. You're going to put up good numbers. So, I guess if going through modern trends, I would probably have to give the Heisman to Bryce Young. However, I am so enthralled to have a defensive lineman, and I know Demetrius doesn't like him. He's from Michigan, but you got to admit, Aiden Hutchinson is a badass. That dude, I don't know if his name is Hutchinson. His name might be Wyatt. I don't know. He might be one of the white players.
Right. When he's the first overall pick of the Detroit Lions in April, I'll start liking him. I'll be a fan then.
If he had on a Wisconsin uniform,
but his motor, he's got a motor that doesn't stop, and I'm looking forward to see that game against Georgia coming up.
Mr. Daly, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's the highest ranked quarterback wins it, right? And that's all it is. I mean, Sam Bradford, Troy Smith, Jason White, Eric Crouch, Gino Torretta, Chris Winkie. I mean, highest rated quarterback. Were any of them considered the best player in the country? No, not unless you didn't know football, I guess. But the Heisman voters are extremely predictable. They do the same thing every single year. Like Demetrius said, I was more interested in the awards that took place tonight. Yeah, and seeing local boy Trey McBride from Colorado State pick up the best tight end award. That was more interesting to me because
award winner. Yeah.
We already know what's going to happen on Saturday. They're going to give it to Bryce, and that's fine. Like you said, he's good. Is he even the best quarterback in the country? Nope. I would say no. I'd take a couple guys before I'd take him. Yeah. I'd take little scrawny Matt Corral before I'd take him.
Exactly.
And so, but top ranked quarterback wins the Heisman. That's just how it is.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the CPC college football playoffs. Clint, let's stay with you. Number 1 Alabama against number 4 Cincinnati. Do you consider Bama a double-digit favorite?
I mean, I guess, but that Cincinnati defense can play. And I know this. I know that in bowl game history, we have seen tons of teams that have been told for a month, you can't hang with this team. And they come out there and they are a thorn in the side. We talked earlier about Miami. We all remember Penn State doing that to Miami. We remember Florida doing that to Ohio State, a team that everyone said you can't hang with. It happens. Ohio State doing it to, again, Miami. When you hear for a month straight how you can't hang with a team, and they're going to hear that for this next month, double-digit favorite? Yeah, because that's what Vegas is probably going to set it at. Is Cincinnati dangerous? They're dangerous to be a pain in the butt. I don't know if they're dangerous to win the game, but I think they'll be a pain because defensively they're good.
Demetrius?
I'm laying the points. Yeah, they're a double-digit favorite. I'm laying the points because I still have nightmares about December 31st, 2015, when Michigan State was in the college football playoff and they had to play who? Alabama. And I was actually on a cruise ship somewhere in the middle of the Caribbean, sitting at a bar thinking, oh, man, I got to go get dressed for dinner. I hope. And I had plenty of time to get dressed for dinner because it was 31-0 at the end of the first quarter. Something ridiculous like that. Yeah, Alabama's a different deal, guys. All seriousness, Alabama's just a different. That's a machine. Saban's a cyclops or some crazy combination of animal and alien and machine. I don't know. They're a different deal. And Cincinnati is a really nice story. They're a nice group of 5 story. They're about to get a wake up call. This is that morning. First day of school and the alarm goes off and you're like, damn, it ain't summer no more. Summer's over. It's about to get real fast. And yeah, so the short answer to your question is, yes, they should be a double-digit favorite. I would lay the points and bet any amount of money that mattered to me. I would be shocked if they're within 3 touchdowns. I would easily lay 20. Wouldn't even sweat it.
Whoa, 20. Bill, are you that bold?
No. For a couple. Because I remember people saying things about how Utah was going to get destroyed by Alabama. I remember people saying things about how just last year, how Georgia was going to just romp against Cincinnati. I remember very clearly how I guess it is now, I guess that long ago, how Boise State was going to run off the field by Oklahoma. Now, the difference is, one is this is a national playoff game, and there won't be any sort of overlooking them. But even if Alabama, and I think they will be prepared and take seriously on good stuff, this is a team that has a lot of NFL talent on it, particularly on the defensive side. So while I think their offense will struggle mightily, I think that eventually Alabama will pull away. But do not be surprised if Alabama has more trouble than you're expecting moving the ball on this Cincinnati defense. There's a pro prospect at every level of their defense and multiple pro prospects in that secondary. I think 3 of the members of their secondary will play in the NFL. I don't think I can say that about many other teams at any level of football. So this team's real. This is a really good football team. It's not just a good story or a fun story or whatever it is people are saying about them. They're a legitimately really good football team. You drop them in any conference, and they're going to do damage, including the SEC, which is wildly overrated, at least as a whole this year. They have a couple of really good teams, right? They're very top-heavy. But
hold on, Bill.
Yeah.
Hold on. Because if I recall, aren't you the guy that had the entire Georgia defense being drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Well, that wasn't me, no. But everybody said something like that.
Wait a minute. Hold it. When we were talking about the title game between Georgia and Alabama, you almost said that Alabama would never cross Georgia's 40-yard line. The defense was so good.
Okay, so I thought you were talking about. Okay, I don't know.
No. I'm talking about all these glowing terms that all of a sudden you now have for Alabama. When
I don't have a lot of glowing terms. Okay. Once again, I think you confused me with someone else. But
Demetrius, did Bill not proclaim Georgia to have the best college defense in college football?
I think he did, and I think that's true.
Okay.
But I think now we're talking about Cincinnati and Alabama. And
I'm just talking about the glowing terms with which we've turned this around. But go ahead, Bill.
You're saying Alabama went in and beat Georgia, the team he said was. I think that's what you're saying.
Yes.
But I think that's a bad day. I would ask you this, Bill. How many of their starting 22? How many Alabama players are playing on Sunday?
of the Alabama team.
Yeah, just a guess.
Their offensive line is not that good this year, but they've got 2 offensive linemen who I think will play. They're obviously, Bryce Young's very young, but eventually he'll be in the NFL. Brian Robinson will. Their wide receiver core isn't what it's been in recent years, but I mean, they'll still put Jameson Williams, obviously the old Ohio State player, is a guy that has a shot at the first round, but more likely the second, unless he tests out of this world, which he might. Mechie is sort of overrated, but he'll play in the NFL. They have a couple of tight ends, but the one I like isn't the one they play a lot for reasons I'm not sure I understand. But I think that Latu and probably the other kid will both play in the NFL.
So we're thinking double digits, right?
Secondary is not all that this year, though. Like
10 kids, right?
Their secondary. They have a couple of guys who play, but I don't love their secondary. Their secondary is just okay. Yeah, they've got probably 3 defensive linemen who play. None of them, I think, are killers, though. Like, they don't have there's not a Bryce Young or whatever anywhere in that bunch. But they'll play. They have at least 3 D linemen who will play in the NFL.
I'm willing to wager a case of an adult beverage of your choice to any one of the 4 of you, and I'm giving 20 points. That's how I feel about it.
Huh.
Anybody wants it?
I have to think about that one.
I'll send you my
address. Got my attention.
I'll send you my address so you can ship my shit. I'm giving 20. And Clint's not flinching, and Don hasn't even looked up. So I feel good about that bet. Neither one of them are even thinking about it.
Don,
well, I am. I'm thinking about it.
All right, we'll talk. We'll talk.
Don, what's your thoughts on that?
On the game?
On the
Alabama,
on the bet.
Cincinnati.
On
So-
20.
So I think, okay, so this way that it's going to go down, okay? At halftime, it's going to be a tight game. It'll be like 21-17. And people will say, oh, Cincinnati's looking good. Third quarter, it's going to be about 31-17.
Yeah.
Fourth quarter, it's going to be 38-20, something like that.
Right.
And
19.
then Alabama will go play Georgia for the championship. No, they'll play Michigan for a championship. My bad.
No, they'll play Georgia. You're right.
Okay. All right. Clint,
Yes.
are you taking the 20?
No, I'm not taking the 20. He doesn't have any good beer up in Detroit. What am I going to get from him?
I can get you beer shipped from anywhere in the country. You tell me what you like, we can get it. I live north of Chicago right now. I'll drive down to Bill Carroll's house and get some out of his fridge.
No, and I'll tell you this honestly. I do not bet on sports. I was involved in them too long to know. I know better.
Right.
That the 20 is tempting.
It is.
I think they can. I think they can keep that. I think they can keep that 20. I do think that defense is legit. I worry if they're going to turn it over. I don't know if I'm a big believer in that quarterback, but the 20 is tempting. And I know Saban is the guy. I get it. You just got your team up to play the best game of their lives by far. Not even close. Can they go do that again now? We'll see, because they could easily sleepwalk through that game.
A Nick Saban team's going to sleepwalk through a game? Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can ask Dabo about it, I guess, but
Hey, they sleepwalked through. They sleepwalked through A&M.
they did sleepwalk through A&M.
They
Sleepwalked through 3 3/4 of a game right before they played Georgia, because Auburn had them. That game was over.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you guys are talking about Auburn and see. Here's the thing: the biggest thing is I don't buy that Cincinnati is Auburn, much less Georgia. They're certainly not Georgia. I don't even think they're Auburn, and that's just my bias, maybe against Group of 5. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the other game. Demetrius, he who shall not be named against Georgia.
Exactly. Obviously, I like Georgia. I'm giving 30 in this one. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm taking 30.
I was going to take that.
No, I'm going to be real. I can take my green and white glasses off for a minute. They run the football well. They have quite possibly the best defense player in the country. This is going to be a good game. And I don't think it's a game where I'm prepared to call. They could win this game. I'm certainly not saying they're going to get smoked. Georgia plays their best game. I like Georgia, but they can make this game short by running it down your throat. They can take your will, and Aiden Hutchinson is going to make your quarterback's day miserable. So they certainly can win the game. They're a good football team. I mean, they weren't as good as us on the 30th of October, but they're a good football team. They're a really good football team. If I got to make a call, genetic predisposition in 4.5 years in East Lansing, Michigan requires me by law to pick Georgia. So, but I'm not going to be crazy and say there's no chance or no. And I can't root for them. That's just impossible. So it's going to be a good game. That's the best I'm going to give you. I can't pick them. Don't ask me to pick them. That ain't going to happen.
Not picking them almost speaks volumes, right?
It speaks that I bleed green and white and I love my school. That's the only thing that's the only thing it speaks. Nothing above that. I want to see the podcast where you pick the Cleveland Browns. I want to see the podcast where you even call them the Cleveland Browns and not the Clowns. So that's what we're talking about.
Let's see. How old are you? You got a long time.
I know. Not gonna happen.
If they won the Super Bowl,
I want to see the podcast where Don is on the sports crib from somewhere in Oklahoma. That's I love it. Don coming to us live from Tulsa.
Oh, okay.
Don didn't even laugh. He's like, this shit's not funny.
It's funny.
Don, number 2 against number 3. Who you got?
I'm sorry, Demetrius. I can go Wolverines on this one. And the reason I say that is because Georgia, I mean, they're undefeated, but when they ran into a good team like Bama, I mean, I don't know if they'll recover. I don't think they'll recover mentally from that shellacking. Michigan, they went out and they beat Ohio State, and then, won the next game against Iowa. No, I was not Ohio State, but they kind of had a little bit of letdown. I figured they'd beat Iowa State more than beat Iowa more than they did, but then, they started to steamroll. Once they started picking it up, they got the machine going. I just think that Michigan is still riding that high after beating Ohio State, and I think it's going to continue. They have the best defensive player in the nation, but they got a pretty good running back too. So, and the offensive line is pretty salty, and Georgia might be having flashbacks. So I'll take Michigan in a close one.
Who you got, Bill?
The thing that Michigan does.
Before you answer, that Demetrius lives in Chicago too. So
I don't know exactly where, but I have a rough idea where.
I know exactly where you live, bro.
but here's what I will say. The thing that Michigan does best is also the thing that Georgia is the best at stopping. They are a downhill running football team, and they can throw the ball a little bit, but if they have to throw the football, they're not very effective. The reason they beat the Ohio State University is because they just pushed them around. They physically dominated them. That dog won't hunt against Georgia. I think it'll be a very close game. I think both teams' defenses are going to look better than both teams' offenses. But I'm thinking, first of all, I don't know what the over-under is, but I think about 36 points are going to be scored in this game altogether. And I think that about 23 of those 36 will end up belonging to Georgia. So I think Georgia wins it in a close, low-scoring game.
Okay, Clint, you can tell us how it really goes.
Bill laid out exactly kind of where I was going too. What Michigan does so well is exactly what Georgia does so well. They shut down the run. Kirby Smart has proven to be a very, very good coach, except when he's playing Nick Saban. But other than that, he's like really, really good. It's just he can't beat Saban. And I don't know, maybe that national championship, maybe if they were to have that rematch, maybe that's when he gets it. But he's really, really good against everybody else, just not Nick Saban. Nick Saban owns him. If you were asking me who to pick, who's going to win the battle in the trenches, like Bill said, I think it's going to be very, very close. But I think what Michigan does well is run the ball. Georgia's going to be tough to run against. I would probably take Kirby over Harbaugh. I just am scared to take Kirby over Saban because Saban owns him. That defensive front at Georgia still might be the best in the country. And like Demetrius said earlier, that Alabama game in a lot of ways felt like a bunch of 18 and 19-year-old kids that just slipped up one week. Yeah. I could easily see Georgia still being the best team in the country. Yep. I'll take Georgia in a close one.
Oh, okay. All right. That's
3 Georgias and Don Hayes. Okay.
Okay, guys. I'm going to kind of skip over this NBA stuff and go straight to the good stuff here, because I know, Demetrius, your Lions won their first game against these Vikings that my Steelers can't seem to stop with a paper bag, cling wrap, saran, whatever. But anyway, 26-0 in favor of the Vikings. How did you guys? We know last minute, last play of the game. But how did you feel getting that first really legitimate victory?
Yeah, so the thing about being a Lions fan is you're one of 3 kinds of fans. You're either A, the dude that lies, doesn't tell people you're a Lions fan, you're secretly watching everything, right? That's not me. 2, you're that experienced Lions fan who just says, listen, this is 3 hours of my life that I'm going to hand over. It's going to hurt like hell, and I'm going to hate everybody when it's done, right? I'm not that guy. And then you're me. You're optimist, right? I enjoy the experience, no matter how it ends. I could give you guys a whole soliloquy and say they should have 5 wins right now, and that's not nonsense. I can name the games. They should have 5 wins, but they didn't. They had 1. So I was prepared with 2 minutes left to get on the air, do my podcast post game, and ask for Dan Campbell to be fired. And literally 13 minutes later, I was watching the post-game celebration in the locker room damn near in tears, right? Because what sports does to you sometimes is it reminds you that these are human beings. These are still human beings. And these people, whether it's the administrative assistant to the head coach, the janitor, there's a bunch of people in Allen Park, Michigan that have been working their asses off for like 14 weeks. And they've needed that. They deserve that. And when I got to see the post-game, I just got a little perspective. These are human beings. And I was like, what? Dan Campbell was almost in tears. They gave him the game ball. The owner came in and hugged him. I'm happy for these human beings, right? I'll get back to my sports fandom at some point. Right now, I've just coasted through this week being happy for this set of human beings. Jared Goff got NFC Player of the Week, right? He played a clean game except for 1 throw. So in terms of analysis of the game, they played their cleanest game all year. They had 1 penalty. It was a delayed game. They finally played a clean game. And other than Goff's interception, that was it. They made 2 mistakes all game. And when you do that, even when you're talent deficient and you got a bunch of injuries, you can compete with Minnesota because despite what they're doing to you guys' team right now, they're not that good. And Clint's starting to sweat because he knows the train is pulling into Denver, Colorado on Sunday. And we might end up putting 2 of them together in a row. I don't know. But it was cool to see. You don't want that O in front. You got to get that out. But I'm happy for the human beings. As a fan, it was cool. As a Lions podcaster, it was great. That was probably my best podcast because it was all over. I'm still not sure I love the coach, but they got to win, and that was a nice feeling. So you're happy for the human beings. Sometimes it's just about perspective. And those people deserved it. All those people that work hard, like I said, in Allen Park, Michigan, deserved that win, deserved a win. And I'm happy for them. I am.
Well, I'm kind of glad that I let you go first because I have been bashing Big Ben since 2019. He put together a great fourth quarter last week. And the defense did everything they could to try to take this victory away. So I am actually going to be like you, Demetrius, and I'm going to look on the bright side and take the win. But there's a but here. Okay. I have to put a certain amount of this win. I have to attribute it to the Harbaugh ego. Had not my little brother finished number 2, I might have taken this kick and tried to go, see what happened in overtime. But no, I'm the big brother, so I have to, I have to set this example of being so much more. So I'm going to contribute. I'm going to take the win, but I'm going to contribute it to Harbaugh's ego. Bill, do you back me up?
Bill, you better not support this nonsense.
So which part am I supposed to be backing?
None of it.
Oh, okay. I mean,
no, he says John Harbaugh's ego because Jim is number 2 in college. John Harbaugh's ego pushed him to go for 2 points to win the game because Jim just went to the playoffs.
2 points is they literally were about to send Duvernay, who is a wide receiver, out to play corner. If they had been overtime, Devin Duvernay was going to be playing slot corner for them.
Bill, this is the Baltimore Ravens that we're talking about here.
Yes, and the Baltimore Ravens, I don't know if you've been paying attention, have used 7 different cornerbacks this year, and we're down to play Devin Duvernay, right? Tell us about him, Don Hayes. You had him at Texas.
Go talk to the San Francisco 49ers. Come on, I don't want to hear that.
The 49ers,
happy with the win,
the 49ers aren't the most injured team in football. The Titans have that, and it's not even close.
And we can. Hey, Richard Sherman is playing for the Bucks on IR. Please, come on.
But those teams are nowhere close to as injured as the teams I'm talking about. In terms of numbers of players used, the teams you're talking about are in top 5, but they're not top 2 or 3. Titans are, well, they're way out in front. Nobody's catching the Titans. The Titans have now used 83 different football players, right? You only get 53 on a roster. They've used 83 players. They're going to set a record that may never be broken if this keeps going. And we've still got games to go.
I think what he's trying to say, James, is why we love you. You're our dude and everything, right? This has nothing to do with Harbaugh's ego. This is football related decisions that have nothing to do with what his little brother did in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Are you gonna tell me that you, as a professional coach, you would rather take an L than a tie? And you're a Detroit. Hold on. And you're a Detroit Lion team that until last week celebrated the tie.
No, they did everything right except the throw. The decision to go wasn't a horrible decision.
It wasn't a bad call.
If Lamar puts a tiny bit of air under that ball, they win the game. And we pick results, and then we question
if JJ Watt is not playing, then the pass might get completed.
Okay. And like
I'm assuming TJ Watt.
I mean TJ Watt, yeah. But
the point is, he looked at his roster.
To me, it was ego. Bill, you say it was.
To me, it was somebody who realized they were out of cornerbacks.
Yes.
And said, we have to end this here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Bill's point is if they tie the game, they got to play defense. And they have to play a receiver at defense. He doesn't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that because you're going to lose that game anyway. I think you believe Lamar Jackson can get you 2.5 yards more so than Devin Duvernay can cover name the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Exactly. That's what he's saying. I believe more in Lamar than I do in Devin Duvernay lining up at cornerback.
Exactly.
Okay, what about a 50-50 coin toss and the Ravens get the ball first and they get a touchdown? They win.
I mean, that could certainly happen, but
If
he's saying I believe more in this situation right here now.
I'm saying if I'm a riverboat gambler and I'm in Las Vegas and I got all my money bet on the Ravens and Jim Harbaugh calls a 2-point conversion instead of tying that game, I'm at his house that night.
And you're going to jail that night.
That was my intentions when I went to his house.
How much is Don loving this conversation?
Don, what do you think? Was it Harbaugh's ego or was it the right play?
You know, one doesn't disclude the other.
Great point, actually. Great point.
But I'm one of these people. I go for the win. I go back to that game Texas lost to Kansas State when we went for 2 in overtime. I like rolling the dice. I used to like it when Mike Leach would go for it on 4th and 7 when he's at Texas Tech. I mean, something about me admires that. So it can be one or the other, but I think it might have just been a good play.
Clint?
Yes.
Come on, Clint. You've been holding it in. What you got?
I mean, as a coach, I am not the biggest fan of a game coming down to one play because you may screw up. You may fumble the kick. Something may happen that is fortunate for us. So I always want to extend the game. He wanted to try to get it because he felt his defense was in a bad spot. I did also find it interesting that he did that on a day that Lamar Jackson had been atrocious. Yeah. And I guess that's one avenue we could go down. What is wrong with Lamar? Because he hasn't looked good now in a few games. Right. I don't know if he's banged up or what the situation is. But the more interesting thing to me was the news that came out, I believe it was this last week, that said this might be Big Ben's last year. Might?
Right.
It should have been 4 years ago. Let's be clear.
Thank you.
He's been horrible.
Thank you.
James doesn't even know what to say. He's so happy you said that. He
Yeah.
doesn't know what to say right now. He's been talking about that ever since I met him. So.
I don't know what they'll do. I guess they go with Mason Rudolph's dented
No.
They may need a quarterback soon. Yes.
I think tonight is not helping that cause either.
No.
He did just throw a touchdown pass out there.
But more to the point, I mean, we're talking about Ben Roethlisberger, but this is a 25th, I think, ranked defense. I mean, this is the worst defense they've trotted out there since '88.
Wow.
The last time they're giving up almost 25 points a game. They're in the bottom of everything. They're in number 28 in yards per play allowed. The
defense is
bad on
is
defense.
atrocious. The defense
So-
is atrocious.
So
Which
while you can talk all you
another-
want about Ben Roethlisberger, this has not been a good defense. This has been a poor defensive year.
Which is another reason why being Harbaugh, playing against that defense, I would have taken a chance at the tie game, and we go. I wouldn't care if I had to put the ball boy in as a defensive back, But anyway, because that is the Steelers' defense. Don, when AB came to the Bucks. Bruce Arians said he had one shot. Well, has he
Well, he
Taking
still
that
hasn't had
one
that
shot.
shot yet, right?
He
I mean,
didn't
I guess
get the shot.
that's the controversy, right?
See,
Nice one, Bill. Nice.
that's great pun there. But Don, what do you think? Will the Bucks cut bait with AB after this 3-game suspension?
It's hard to tell. I mean, I think conventional wisdom would say yes. It's probably time for him to be cut. But I mean, that's like kicking your grandfather out of the nursing home. It's just kind of sad.
Sorry, I wasn't ready for that one.
Well, but no, I'm saying, you have one of the greatest running backs who ever played.
You mean wide
Yeah.
receivers?
I thought you said Peterson, right?
No, AB.
Oh no. It's not Antonio Brown.
He's talking about Antonio Brown.
Oh, okay.
Which I still love the grandfather thing. I'll take it. Who
I
kicks
say
the
next
grandfather
week.
out of a nursing home, man? What kind of shit y'all doing in Texas? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was talking about Antonio Brown with the Buccaneers, and he's suspended 3 games.
He was lucky to get a shot in the first place. So
Again, he didn't hit the shot though. No, I think you sometimes it's okay to fire somebody or cut somebody for just the stupidity of what they tried to get away with. It's a principle of the matter that you actually thought you were going to buy a fake vaccination card, and you are a professional football player. Don't you know the kind of person that sells fake vaccination cards snitches? That's what they do. That's what that person does. You don't
It's
think
a better
they're
card for
telling
me.
you.
Guess who I sold the card to today?
Exactly. Your ability to judge character is flawed, and I don't know if I want you in my locker. Just your whole plan sucked. It was a Scooby-Doo old man got caught by bumbling kids plan. It was horrible.
What do you thought? What's your thoughts about this, Clint?
Well, I mean, if we're cutting Antonio Brown for stupidity, he doesn't get in the league. So, I mean, this guy has more lives than like Jason Voorhees, because when he gets on the league, when he's in the league and he's on the field, there are times he can perform and can perform well, and for that reason, they will let him play because he shouldn't be with a team now. I mean, he has a history of being an idiot. The man froze his feet. He got mad about a helmet. I mean, he probably, this Vax card probably was written in crayon. He has a history of doing dumb things. So they'll probably keep him because they knew what they were getting in bed with. So that's who he is.
Well, Demetrius, does Tom Brady save his job again?
Of course. Because Tom Brady's about winning, and he doesn't give a damn about a vaccination card. He thinks Antonio Brown will help them win football games, and that is all that cyborg cares about.
Bill, do you agree?
I think that they're going to have some interesting discussions, but assuming the math works out with him helping them to win another Super Bowl, they believe that he will help them win another Super Bowl, then once again, it takes you back to an old line from a scout from many years ago. If Hannibal Lecter ran 4.3, we would say he had an eating disorder. If a person who can help you win is going to get chances. I mean, we don't have to like it, but it is an incredibly factual piece of information that as long as you believe that this person is able to help you win football games, you'll put up with a lot. So I think that that's being discussed now, and unless for some reason they decide he's not worth it, but I think they will decide he's worth it. I think they'll say he's on double secret probation and, this is it, no more, right? That'd be work. But I think he'll end up surviving this. I think he'll miss some games. It might dock him a game check or two. I think he will get fined by the team.
He's lost 3. He's been suspended for 3 games, so he's
right.
lost.
But I'm saying the team may also, take a bite out of him too. But I think at some point they'll say, okay, now you've learned your lesson or whatever.
They're not even going to say that.
Well, they may not say it, but they'll be
It
thinking.
won't even be that harsh. It's so great. Because Bill didn't believe that as he was saying.
No,
He didn't really believe it.
but they'll be thinking it.
Right. Somebody will say it in the meeting, but they're not putting it out in public.
Don, should the Cowboys rest Zeke until he's 100%? And what's going on with Jerry talking about it's the wide receivers not running the routes properly? What the hell is that? What's that all about?
Yeah, Don, what's that all about?
Well,
Explain Jerry Jones.
To be fair to Jerry, which I rarely am, his two top receivers, Cooper and Lamb, have been in and out of injury. They're not completely healthy themselves. They're getting there, but I think I kind of see where he's coming from. But you really don't want to call that your strongest players on your offense right now. As far as resting Zeke, Zeke does need to get healthy. The Cowboys are poised to make a big run. They went from like the crappiest team in their division to the number one team in their division, which I was not expecting. I wasn't expecting Jerry Jones.
Which is the crappiest division in pro football.
Well, yes,
Right,
but the Cowboys have been playing pretty tough football. But I never thought Jerry Jones would wise up and recruit defense, and he did. When he drafted
Michael Parsons and Diggs.
Yes, Diggs. Yeah, and we finally got some defensive guys. So Diggs is pretty damn good. But I think Zeke could get a rest. We do have some depth at that running back position, so I think we can afford. We just need to keep Dak healthy.
Clint, I mean, what Don's saying sounds good, but you got 4 games where Zeke has rushed for 50 yards or less. And you have, if it wasn't for those, especially CeeDee Lamb's kind of taken that wide receiving core on his shoulders, even though he is, I think a little less than healthy, but, to put the blame on the wide receiving core. And then, Tony Pollard is showing that he's at least an adequate replacement for Zeke at this particular time. Now, I don't know about all that depth that they have running back right now. I see Zeke and Tony that are putting forth the effort. But what are your thoughts on the Cowboys and this run?
Well, the Cowboys are kind of doing what they did last year. They're scoring points when they get decent play from Zeke. But they're averaging 29 points a game. They're putting up almost 300 yards of passing per game. Wide receiver wouldn't be my prime concern. But while the defense is better, and we're all looking at the defense is better, right? Because last year the defense gave up 30 points a game. That's a lot. That's a ton. This year, in those 4 losses, the defense has given up 30 points a game. So there's that. I mean, we'll see if the defense truly is better. It's looked better against the bad teams. We'll see if it truly is better here very, very soon, because they haven't played the toughest schedule. I still think the defense might end up being a little bit of a problem. But hey, Jerry, say what you want. We saw you salt your Egg McMuffin. You're clearly outside your mind, so it doesn't make any difference. Say whatever you want.
Demetrius?
Yeah, so I'm going to leave all the football analysis to Bill. I'm going right to Jerry. So think about this dude, right? When he looks in the mirror, I know what I see when I look at him. I swear, guys, I think when Jerry gets up, he's like, I'm a scout. I'm the GM. Jerry does a weekly radio show. Mm-hmm. The owner of the Detroit Lions, who I bet none of you guys can name, not single one of you guys.
Sheila Ford.
Sheila Fordham. Okay.
Yeah.
Sheila Fordham doesn't do a weekly radio show. Sheila Fordham barely speaks 3 times a year, maybe, unless somebody's getting fired. Jerry does a weekly show, and he gets on the airwaves because he was in the back room of the coaches meeting. We all know what happened. He was sitting over in the corner, like Clinton said, putting salt on his Egg McMuffin. They probably had the coaches meeting on the yacht from the 2020 draft, right? Yes. And he's sitting there listening, taking a couple of notes. Oh, yeah, somebody next to him taking notes, right?
Yeah,
and he got a couple of lines from the coaches meeting. He said, yep, I'm going to go on the radio and I'm going to sound smart because I'm Jerry Jones. And I just got a nose job and an ear job and I'm looking good. Jerry loves Jerry. I love Jerry. I'm not going to lie. I wish he owned my team. I'm not going to lie at all. This dude's entertaining, though. Jerry doesn't know jack about route running. What are we talking about? That is hilarious. And I just wish I had video of him over in the corner of the coaches meeting. He probably wasn't even in the corner, though, was he? He was sitting at the head of the damn table, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's firing the questions out.
He was probably breaking down film. What am I talking about? That's just the best. The owner has a weekly radio show, guys.
Hey, he's probably the third string quarterback on the depth chart.
He's on the depth chart somewhere.
Yeah.
Outside linebacker. You know how Jerry sees it. Yeah. So the answer to your question is yes, they should rest Zeke because 80% Zeke doesn't help you win football games. And you got Tony Pollard. So, but I'll let Bill do all the in-depth breakdown. I'm loving Jerry too much right now.
Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead, Bill.
So just because Jerry's right doesn't mean Jerry's right. There have been some misreads of the defense by some of the receivers. And so there's a certain amount of running what's called either option or choice routes. And, some of it's basic stuff. If it's man, you keep running. If it's zone, you set it down. And some of those, there have been some mistakes made. However, one, it's not Jerry. It shouldn't be Jerry's job to air that particular piece of laundry. And he's only partially right. He's only partially correct. But it's hilarious, as was pointed out, that Jerry Jones. I don't know if Jerry Jones was there the whole meeting. If he was there for 30 seconds, doesn't matter, right? The point is he got the information he needed out of the meeting, right? Oh, there it is. It's not. He first of all, he loves his quarterbacks, right? He loved Tony Romo, loved him. He still loves Troy, and I think he's begun to love Rain Dakota Prescott as well. He loves quarterback, loves him. Now, I don't know if he has the same level of love for receivers. Like he clearly liked Michael Irvin, right? But I don't think he'll ever love receivers the way he loves his quarterbacks. Right. It is. I mean, I keep trying to think. Like I couldn't see Shad Khan doing this. I can't see Mark Davis, who's spent his entire life around football. They didn't, Jerry obviously played at a high level. I mean, Jerry played on, an undefeated team one year at Arkansas. So obviously, it's not like he doesn't know football, but he doesn't know it the way coaches or players who do this every day know it, right? He can't. He's a man who's reached a certain point in his life. He wants to win one more Super Bowl before he dies. He does love football. And he's not
thinking about dying. What are you talking about?
I'm not thinking about dying. I'm saying he's thinking about winning another Super Bowl before he dies. Okay. Another Super Bowl. I shouldn't just say he wants to win another Super Bowl without Jimmy Johnson. I guess is what I should have really said. Speaking of the greatness of painless and painless of greatness, that is the thing he definitely wants to do is win one with his old road teammate from Arkansas around to soak up any of the glory. That's what he really wants. That's the thing he dreams of day and night and day. So he wants to be involved in football in a way that no other owner even wants to be involved, quite frankly, or has the time, initiative, energy, nobody else is even pretending to do. Jerry still goes out and scouts players, right? We know this. Jerry still, or what he would call scouting players. Jerry still watches tape. Jerry still likes to discuss the game plan with the coaches. Nobody else does this stuff. He wants to feel like he's a football man, right? And Al Davis was the last owner who was legit football man. And Jerry sort of saw himself as receiving the mantle from Al when Al died. Now, Al never did this or said this or felt the same sort of kinship or whatever, except they both, sometimes ran afoul of certain things that the NFL, didn't want them to do. But that was the extent of their sort of connection. Jerry just does stuff because he's Jerry. He does Jerry things.
Jerry, right?
Yeah, that's just how you. I guess you have to explain it. Jerry just does Jerry things. But Bill, there was Don. There was a quarterback, that we said the same thing about all last year. He just does Patrick Mahomes things. But this year, he's only had 2 games. Well, in his last 8 games, he's only had 2 or more TDs. So is Mahomes struggling, Don, or is this the real Mahomes that we're looking at?
I don't think it's either. I think that the rest of the league is caught up. We've seen this before where someone comes in, they're flashy and they're doing great, and then next thing you know, defenses that you get enough film on someone, you figure them out. We saw that happen to Mr. Vince Young. His first 2-3 years in the league, he was tearing it up, and all of a sudden it disappeared. I can think of, even go back to Colin Kaepernick. He tore it up for 2-3 years.
I think Robert Griffin's another good example.
Robert Griffin. Yeah. That's a very good point. The one who really hasn't faltered that fits that mold is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is still, playing good football. But Lamar Jackson, teams are starting to figure out Lamar Jackson a little bit. So, you kind of have to always stay on top of your game. I think that's, guys like Breeze and Brady, they've done that. But, Roethlisberger, let's just say that Minnesota has his ass figured out tonight. They saw the film.
Or the lack thereof.
Yes.
Anyway,
I just got a text message from Roethlisberger's elbow. Said this game's not over yet. We might be witnessing a historic comeback. That's what he said. His right elbow said, "Don't speak too soon."
And make sure, try to find that IPO address because I'm sure it came from the Ukraine or somewhere like that. Bill, is the rest of the league just catching up with Patrick?
Not really. What's happening is you're seeing a lot of really sort of soft 2-deep coverage, right? A lot of, sort of lurking, right? Guys dropping off. So you have, sort of a normal 2-deep shell. And what's happening is a lot of once the corner who's sort of dropping off, right? You sort of carried your man as far as you're going to carry him. What you're then doing is you're looking for work, right? So anyone who's ever played zone corner before, especially since they aren't stubborn in the run game, frankly, the issue is play calling. There's been decision-making, a little bit of decision-making issue with Mahomes. And I think 7 of the interceptions he's thrown this year have been balls that have bounced off his receivers. 5 of them, Tyreek Hill by himself, right? No one's talking about that. If those 7 interceptions are instead receptions, what they should have been, since they hit receivers right in the hands, are we talking about this? That's not figuring someone out. That's his receivers for some reason having a bad year, and the fact that they're not just taking what the defense is giving them, right? If they would just be stubborn in the run game, some design quarterback runs, more runs to the running backs, and then eventually when they force you out of that soft 2 deep, now you go back to doing what you do, they would win 2, maybe 3 more games, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. So no, it's not really that. It's that their play calling, for whatever reason, has been stubborn, right? They're being stubborn in the wrong way. Be stubborn in the run game and run these teams out of that soft cover too, as opposed to trying to, force things to happen that aren't really there. And then, like I said, 7 interceptions off of balls that bounced off receivers' hands. That's insane. 5 of them Tyreek Hill by himself. So,
okay, Demetrius. So, is Bill saying that the Chiefs are suffering from the Jerry Jones receiver syndrome? It's all about the receivers. It bounced off of this one.
I don't think that's exactly what
it's
Bill
not
said.
all about them, but 7 interceptions bounced off receivers. That's a fact.
That's the reality is both guys are right. Both guys are absolutely right. There's so many factors. And 2 years ago, everyone was just saying how great Mahomes was. And with the exception of the occasional flower given to Travis Kelce, people forget that football is a team game, right?
Yep.
There's offensive linemen, and that's a different deal. And oh, by the way, you have a defense. James is getting happy because the Steelers just scored, and it's a game. So I see what you're doing over there. I told you, Roethlisberger's elbow sent me that message. Oh, that was the dumbest play call ever. Wow, that's horrible. So back to Mahomes. I think it's all of that. I think Don is right. There's a degree of the league is catching up, because I think if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm going back looking at film of how you beat us last time, how you beat everybody. I'm not giving you that. I'm going to take that away. Now, if you can find a better way to beat me because your play caller has gotten smarter, but if your play caller is, like Bill said, being stubborn, saying, we're going to beat you the way we've always beat you, and I've decided I'm taking away that, you need to find a different way to beat me, you're going to look like you're struggling. And now we're doing the opposite. That's the blessing and the curse of playing quarterback. When everything's good, you get $500 million, you get the video game cover, you get all that. Shit goes bad, people start asking, are you real? That's just the job, right? There's so many factors. We couldn't cover them all in 3-hour podcasts. Things that go into schemes that defenses are using. That's why they have a thing about it. You got tape on them now. They got tape on him. They know what he does well. They know what the Chiefs do well. They know every single play in the Chiefs playbook. A defensive coordinator, name a team. The Denver Broncos defense coordinator knows they play twice a year.
He might not know.
He might not know. Okay. So maybe Dallas's defense, they know every play in their playbook. And you can scheme some things away. Some of it is changes up front in the offensive line. Some of it's the running games that's effective. A bunch of it is what Bill said. They're drop passes. These are game-changing plays. And other thing Bill said, play calling. All of those things. So everybody's right. The league has caught up. Play calling is not as stubborn is the right word. Changes on the team and all of that. I think all those things factor in.
Go ahead, Clint. You got the last word on this.
Well, Patrick Mahomes is insanely talented. He might be a generational talent. We'll see if he is, because it's not what you do to start. It's what you do after they've figured out what you do to start. And then, can you make those adjustments? But I will say this about Mahomes, and everybody on here has been right. He has gotten away with some really bad habits.
Yes.
He has gotten away with throwing these no-look passes that are adorable for 12-year-olds to try, but might not always work in the NFL and might come back to bite you. Sometimes Patrick Mahomes, he makes plays way more difficult than they need to be.
Right.
But sometimes Andy Reid makes things way more difficult than they need to be. So Patrick can always do from you, all right? I learned it by watching you. So he can play that card if he wants to. There are times it is 3rd and goal at the 1-inch line, and Andy Reid calls for a triple flea flicker reverse pass, but you just hand the ball off. Just give it to Hilaire Edwards and be done. So, he learned it from Andy Reid. If you've watched Andy Reid walk lately, he makes things more difficult than they need to be, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, Clint, you can't make so anybody under 50. What Clint was referencing, explain references like that for those people listening under 50. It's a classic drug commercial with a father-son, and you have to Google.
I'm just glad you got it.
Yeah, Google. I learned it from you, and it should come up. That was great though. Okay. Bill usually drops those. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was a good one. I was it's like, okay, all right. So,
you.
uh, s- I learned it by watching you, Clint. Pete Carroll seems to have this fascination with one Jamal Adams. And he made a trade for him a couple years ago. And although, now it's coming back to kind of bite him in the butt, he still sticks by this trade. Is he going to stick by this trade all the way out the door, Clint?
I don't know. It's hard to read what the Seahawks are doing exactly right now because you never thought you'd say this, but they look like a poorly coached team right now, which is kind of weird because we've seen them look so good. We've seen that defense look so good. So I don't know. They're definitely in a transition situation. We'll see what they do with Russell Wilson. By the way, the rumors that he might be going anywhere to me are insane because you don't get rid of that guy. But the Seahawks are in the middle of kind of trying to figure out exactly who they are and maybe having to rebuild and revamp this entire thing. But one thing to kind of keep in mind, because of the way that Pete Carroll chews his gum, and because of the way that he screams like "woo" after every big play, you forget the man is 70 years old, but he's 70 years old.
Yeah. Yep.
And how much longer is he really, going to do this? How much longer can he do this? He's not a young guy. On the subject of Jamal Adams, I would like to remind everyone on the panel, anyone listening or watching, and I'm not, I wasn't a great NFL player, but I have just 4 less interceptions than Jamal Adams has. And that's something is what I'm saying. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I mean, beep, beep.
Other than the fact that you're bashing 70-year-olds, Clint.
Hey, Pete Carroll would have got my commercial.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah. I'm going to give him at least another 4 years.
Woo.
Well, I mean, hey, that's just because we belong to the same 70-year-old club. So I'm going to give him 4 more years.
Y'all 70-year-olds have to stick together,
right? So I'm going to give him 4 more years, and then at some level, but I do think, Don, what do you think? Is this Adams going? Is this going to come back and bite him in the ass and be the end of him in Seattle?
Very well could be, but I think Pete Carroll has built up enough credit to where he can survive certain things. I think Pete Carroll will be done in Seattle when Pete Carroll says, "I'm done in Seattle." That's just my take.
Well, see, and I know this, look, there's 2 74-year-olds that need to retire. And I'm in that 70. No, I'm not going to say Ben. I'm going to say Pete and Joe Biden. But we're not talking about Joe Biden
this
right
isn't
now.
Monday. It's not Monday night.
Right. So we're going to eliminate Joe Biden, and right now we're going to talk about 70-year-old Pete.
Biden's like 78, isn't he?
He's older than I am. That's all I know.
Mentally, he's 4.
If I'm dirt, then he must be soil. But anyway, I don't know how much separates 4 years, 74, 78. Then again, I don't know. At 74 years old, I think I would need a whole lot of help. Trying to run the country. But that's a Monday show. Anyway, the retirement of or firing of Pete Carroll, Demetrius, your thoughts?
So I don't want to get too high level, but this game is great for a lot of reasons. And one is you have to give credit to a guy named Wellington Mara, who's the owner of the New York Giants, right? Because he sat in a meeting one day and said, sure, I'll share revenue with a team in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and a team in Kansas City, Missouri. I own the Giants. I don't have to, but I will. That's why this sport runs the world. Slight hyperbole, but that's why they run the world, because of revenue sharing. The other side of that is a salary cap. So when you make certain acquisitions, you put a timetable on your window, your success window. And this trade at the time looked good strictly on a talent basis. But there were people, there were people who said this is going to hurt at some point. And the best analogy I have is in baseball, and his name is Miguel Cabrera, who I still love, and he was great, and he won a Triple Crown. But Miguel Cabrera is pulling down 31 mil right now, and it's killing us, right? Blake Griffin is playing basketball in Brooklyn, New York, and he's on the hook for the Pistons for $31 million. What Jamal Adams did was he impacted them financially, what they could do in acquiring players at other positions. And it shortened this window. And so when they didn't win in his first short period of time there, the window started closing. And now it is flying shut. And at 74, Pete's not strong enough to keep the window open. I don't know what the analogy is there. But acquisitions like that, one of the best safeties in the game in the prime, comes with a price tag. That price tag impacts your salary cap, and you can't stay sustainably good by acquiring those high-priced players. You can open a window, but it's going to close unless you draft exceptionally. And they had. But the minute they acquired him, there was a timetable of success for Seattle. And they knew that. They knew Russ's window was going to close. They knew what they had, and it just didn't work out. Now Pete could wade his way through a recycling plan where you redo all that, but that takes well, if you're not the Lions, you can probably do it in 3 or 4 years, but it's doable. But I think short answer to your question is that window's closing and Pete closes with the window. And I don't think he's their coach 2 months from now. Certainly not a year and 2 months from now.
No, I don't think he'll coach Seattle next year. But Bill, what's your thoughts? Are we all just burying Pete too soon?
Well, I mean, not way too soon. And cousin Pete is a favorite of mine. I've enjoyed watching him in his 2 stints in the NFL prior to the Seahawks, and obviously in his years at University of Southern California. It's funny because there are so many parallels between his career and a guy like Belichick, right? They had very similar sort of NFL upbringings. They were both defensive-minded coaches. Now, obviously, personality-wise, they're the 2 most different coaches you could imagine. But defensive-minded coaches came up with sort of an effect on their careers by Parcells. Now, in the case of Belichick, he actually was on Parcells' staff for actually a lot of his career. In the case of Carroll, he was either following Belichick or being followed by Belichick in his NFL coaching stints. So, but he was a guy that, originally the thing that people sort of knew about him, in addition to the fact that he would play one-on-one basketball with anybody, and he had a basketball court set up, and all that good stuff when he came in as the head coach of the Jets and all this stuff, and him being, Harry High School, and people sort of, thinking that, this guy can't be for real. My God, can anyone be that relentlessly upbeat all the time? And eventually, he even though he had a winning record, not by a lot, but a slightly winning record in his first run, when you add his first 2 tenures, both in New England and the Jets together, he then goes obviously to college, puts together, even though he had a very short coaching career, it's still probably going to put him in the College Football Hall of Fame someday, despite the shortness of his career at USC, then comes back to the NFL and has been the most successful coach in franchise history, with a lot of room to spare as a Seahawks head coach. But the struggles that they've had, and a lot of this is on the front office, and though Pete works closely with Schneider, he's not the guy shopping for the groceries. That's Schneider. They've had some severe misses in the draft, right? Severe. They've drafted players, like Rashad Penny and Collier, and LJ Collier, a round or 2 before anyone else would have. And those guys have not panned out. They've had several early draft picks not pan out. Their offensive line is, I mean, just once again, I feel like I've said all this before on other shows, and I'm sure I have, is consistently one of the worst in the NFL. And now that their defense is no longer elite, all of the ugliness is now laid bare for you to see. Like, they were able to cover a lot of this stuff up and sort of, keep you distracted or sort of paint over certain things. Well, now all that paint's gone. All the varnish is gone. We're down to the clear coat, baby. And you can see that Russell Wilson is out there trying to cook, but they have, Gerald Everett is an NFL tight end. Like, he's deserving of getting a game check, but he's not exactly a game breaker. They have two really good wide receivers, and then there's a significant drop off in terms of anyone else. I think D. Eskridge is going to be something someday, but he's a rookie. But they don't really have a third receiver yet. And
but I don't think Pete's going to be there to develop these guys.
Right. Well, that's kind of the point I'm making. That they're in the midst of turning over. Right. Bobby Wagner is one of the few holdovers. No, not the few. I think he's the holdover other than Russ. I think they're the only two survivors, right, from the last Super Bowl. I think they're it. I have to go back and check if I'm right. Maybe there's a place kicker or a long snapper or something that I'm overlooking.
I think they're the only two.
But I think they're the only two that have survived, or which I'm going to use from them. So they're in the midst of a huge turnover, and they haven't drafted well. That's a bad combination, right? When a lot of your best players have aged out of your program and you haven't drafted well, that means you have to turn to free agency. And some teams, I mean one team, has managed to really reload successfully through free agency, and that's the Patriots. Everyone else has mostly done it through the draft. You may add a key player here or there through free agency. Most teams reload through the draft, and they haven't drafted well. So I think Pete gets this year. He might get one more year just because of sort of loyalty or whatever. But if they don't win early and often next year, then that's certainly it.
Let's see. Who do I want? Let's give you this one, Don. 3 passes. 3 passes, Don. Is this the genius of Bill Belichick? And did this game propel him to be the possible Coach of the Year candidate?
There's things that happen in this world that are beyond comprehension. And that's just one of them. Belichick, I think in a previous life, he was cutting up dead bodies and creating another body like Frankenstein. I don't know. Oh shit, Pittsburgh's making comeback.
It's like Belichick. Oh shit, Pittsburgh.
Sorry about that, but yeah, I mean, he's a mad scientist, whatever you want to call it. He's cut from that same cloth that Mike Leach is, and probably Nick Saban, and we used to talk about Pete Carroll, kind of like that, but Pete's a little bit more personal. But yeah, 3 passes in the game. That'll never happen again.
What's your thoughts on that, Demetrius?
I don't think this is about genius, man. And I know I'm a cynic. I get it. You guys have to tell me. This is a bunch of bullshit, guys. They were playing in a some combination of a hurricane / monsoon / I saw the conditions. I saw Randy Moss get blown out of a chair. Right? Yep. This wasn't genius. There was nothing genius about this. Me and Clint would have came up with the same game plan. I don't know if we would have thrown it 3 times. I don't know if we would have thrown it at all. But this was all he did was what a reasonable person should have done in the conditions they were given. Like, I don't think a hero is somebody who does something great that anybody else in that position probably would have done, that most people in that position probably would have done. I'm not giving Belichick flowers on this one. I think this was necessity. He wasn't in the meeting room Wednesday going, we only throwing it 3 times. That's not how that happened. That's not how that happened. So I'm not gonna give him some award. And I don't coach of the year is I don't know another award that's probably ridiculous, but I'm not giving it to him because he's still Belichick and he's William Stephen coaches the Patriots. Somebody else deserves that award, not him. I don't know. You guys can tell me who it is, but it's not him. BA might still deserve it because he's managing egos and fake vaccination cards and all kinds of nonsense down there. Yeah, I might be wrong, and the guys will tell me if I'm wrong. But yeah, this is not the genius of Belichick. I mean, all due respect, I don't think this is the genius of Belichick. This is Mother Nature.
Bill, your thoughts, and then pass it on to Clint.
Sure. Well, I mean, Belichick, if he deserves Coach of the Year, it's not because of that particular game. I mean, once again, to quote Bob Dylan, you don't have to be a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. You clearly had to do what you had to do there. And the thing you might ask is, why'd you throw the ball those 3 times? One, you were up against, didn't seem to have any idea of how to stop the run game. I mean, that was ugly. And I mean, they were able to run the ball in chunks when everyone knew it was coming. That's not, I'm not impressed there. And I'm a huge Leslie Frazier fan, but they seem to have some struggles in stopping, like I said, what everyone knew was coming. I predicted some things, and including that the Bills were not going to people were just writing the Bills into going deep into the playoffs. And I said the Bills are going to come back to the pack this year a little bit, at least in part because Josh Allen's going to come back to Josh Allen a little bit. I mean, he had a really terrific year last year, but it wasn't sustainable. And he's good, but he's not as good as he looked that year. But, I mean, I think he ends up being considered, and he is considered already one of some people say the greatest of all time amongst NFL coaches. Certainly deserves to be mentioned amongst the greatest of all time. If he's not number 1, he's certainly in the top, 2 or 3. But not that game. I mean, that's not the game. Like, this is the game you would show when you're inducting him into the Hall of Fame. I mean, what are we talking about here? Huh?
Well, Clint, I guess that means it's up to you now.
Well, I mean, Belichick is one of the all-time greats. He doesn't care how he wins. The interesting thing about this game, and the reason that this game doesn't propel him in my mind, is you're playing a Buffalo team that's not really a Buffalo team.
Right.
They can't run the ball themselves. They're not very stout against the run. They are specifically not built for bad weather, which is exactly where they play. So he gets the perfect storm for exactly what he needed. Having said that, the great thing, the genius thing, if you want to say that about Bill Belichick, he doesn't care how he wins. Dominate with great defense in a running game, great. He's fine with that. Run a highly efficient short passing game, he can do that. Attack down the field, he can do that. He can rush you. He can drop in. He's a brilliant. Hey, use your tight ends to murder people. Whatever is what I'm saying. He finds ways to win games. He's very, very good at it. Hey, brief side note. I just am seeing on Twitter that Demaryius Thomas just passed away.
Yeah, he passed about an hour ago.
That's
really.
He had a seizure.
That's horrible.
Oh, man.
And yeah, that's really, really bad news. Although James probably doesn't mind that much, but
doesn't care. Steelers just gave up 2nd and 21. James is
he's probably wishing Tim Tebow had a seizure instead. But yeah, we'll move forward.
Speaking of moving forward, that's a great segue. Because I've thought about investing in U-Haul guys. And I have some guys that I think might be moving. Give me your thoughts. First of all, Matt Ryan. Maybe we'll hook him up with a 1-year deal with the Steelers until we find another quarterback. Your thoughts on that, Clint?
I think the Falcons ride Matty Ice until the wheels fall completely off the wagon. I think they never, ever, ever get rid of him. He will just stay there it might not be much, but dang it, they're going to hold on to it for all they have. I don't think he gets out of Atlanta. As much as good as it would be for him, I don't think it happens.
What do you think, Bill?
I don't think it's going to happen. I wouldn't mind it. It gives Matt Ryan another chance to chase a ring. The Steelers on offense are clearly a above replacement level quarterback away from being a playoff team. And I mean, it feels like the kind of thing like a 14-year-old hopped up on like Monster drink comes up with. But like I said, I'd love to see it. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think more likely we get a tier below that kind of quarterback.
I didn't ask you to speculate. No. I got enough with the Steelers speculating with Big Ben already. So no. Demetrius.
I think it's great for I think it's great for everybody except the team that currently holds his rights. So I agree with Clint. Atlanta's not letting him go. I think the Steelers would love it.
There you have
Steelers fans would love it. I hear, because he happens to be really close friends with my favorite quarterback, the current quarterback of the Rams, Matt Stafford. He loves Atlanta. I mean, like the city. He loves living there, raising his family there. He's embedded in that community. So I don't think it's realistic. I think till the wheels come off is exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. When a city embraces you after you lose a 35-point lead, yeah, okay. Yeah. Don, Don, what do you think? Matt Ryan, Falcon forever?
Very possible. Just like I think Roethlisberger will be at Pittsburgh forever.
Oh no, this year's is in.
That was uncalled for, Don Hayes. That was unprovoked.
Forever is 2021. Okay, so Teddy Bridgewater to the Texans for maybe a 1-year contract. Bill.
Wait, hold on. We're sitting different. My God, we're sitting quarterbacks everywhere today.
Clint not get that one first, by the way.
Well, that's a guy. If I'm the Steelers, I'm making a play for, quite frankly.
Hell no! Please go ahead. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, once again, as a bridge quarterback to the rookie you're trying to develop, yes. I think he's a fine bridge quarterback, and he's not going to cost you what Matt Ryan would cost you, and Matt Ryan's not going to actually be available, despite what some 14-year-old hopped up on whatever energy drink says. I mean, one, why would he do it? Why would he say yes to that? Right? That's the first question. There will be a market for a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, and he'll probably have better options. I can't imagine that would be his best option.
Okay, Clint, what's your thoughts on Teddy Bridgewater? Does he stay a Bronco or does he go somewhere else?
Teddy Bridgewater is the best quarterback on our roster.
Okay.
It's really going out on a limb, isn't it? I could talk about the other quarterback, that idiot, but I won't disparage poor Drew Lock's name. No, Teddy's fine. Teddy needs some help around him. He's not a guy that's going to go in and win anything by himself. And I guess here in Denver, maybe they're looking at, if we surround him with enough, then he'll be okay. And that's probably the ideal situation for him. So if they do that, the problem is we don't have any idea what the Broncos are going to do this offseason. They might be the most unpredictable team this offseason coming up because of their ownership situation. It has to be kind of rectified this year. They're saying that it will be, but you can't kind of declare this group is kind of an owner. That's not how the NFL works. You have to declare an owner. They haven't done that. I think they have to step up and get an owner this year. And because of that, I think their offseason is completely unpredictable. I don't have a clue what's going to happen because who knows who the owner is going to be if they do come in. They are saying the Denver Broncos will have a new owner this spring.
Don, what do you think?
Ever since he's in college, I've been a Bridgewater fan when he's over at Louisville. I mean, I love Bridgewater. It would not bother me to see him move on to the Texans, for example. But he his first year he suffered a devastating injury that a lot of guys don't come back from. So I'm a big Bridgewater fan.
Demetrius?
Nobody by choice moves on to become the quarterback of the Houston Texans. That's it. That's the part of the question I'm struggling with. But Dos Guantes, which is, I believe, Spanish for two gloves, he will have other options, because there are teams that have good enough defenses and running games that he fits. Actually, he's playing for one right now. If they're smart, they probably don't let him go, and they fill in other holes. He's not. What?
Smart.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't think he consciously chooses to go play for the Texans. So that's a hard pass. The Texans are going to have to acquire someone whose rights they own, who has no choice. So no free agents choosing to go there. No, I mean, unless checks that big, I guess. But no, I don't see him there.
Demetrius, Sam Darnold, the Washington football team, or
I love that. I love that. I think that I think it's the second one, right? What is it that we're all seeing with Sam Darnold that I don't see? I don't see it, guys, and I think I know football. I kind of Washington a football mind. What's the fascination with Sam Darnold? Am I just not watching enough of his games? Because from what I see, he's a solid third guy, headset dude. He might be a decent backup. I don't think Sam Darnold's a starting quarterback in the National Football League next year. There's my short answer. Not for anybody.
Clint, that second W is for where, by the way.
Oh,
so is Washington football team or where? Go ahead, Clint.
If you have a young person that is a football player, teach them to play quarterback, because as you can see, there is a lack of good quarterbacks. This man was named a starter, and for the first month, there were people saying maybe it was just the Jets. It wasn't. He's not good at football.
Exactly.
So you can have a job in the NFL if you can kind of just look good on your pro day throwing against coaches with brooms. And Sam Darnold has made a living doing that. And I don't know that he's very good. I would lean towards the same thing. I think he's in the league
right
with a visor on and not playing, because I don't think he's good enough to win a starting job.
There's a chair in the meeting room for him, but I don't want his ass on the field.
Next to Jerry.
Right next to Jerry.
Don?
Yeah, Darnold is he's a backup at best. I don't think he's not. He'll never be elite. Like someone mentioned, he's barely a starter. So that's my take on that.
Bill, we'll give you the final word on this. Sam Darnold, Washington or where?
Yeah, I'm going to go with or where. I think that, once again, there's going to be some quarterback coaches that I can fix him, right? Because whenever a guy has a certain pedigree, there's always going to be some coach who says, "Oh, I can fix him," right? He'll be Seattle, I don't know, who knows? He'll be a backup somewhere. Actually, a great fit for him would be the Chargers. One, because it's sort of going back home. Two, even though he's actually a younger player, he can learn a lot from a guy like Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, first of all, is an absolutely brilliant person. Not just football brilliant, but like brilliant. He won the Campbell Trophy, which some people call the academic Heisman. He had a 4.3 GPA, a double major, and was a teaching assistant his last year at Oregon. So that's a guy I think that he'd be great for Darnold, who has a certain amount of physical talent, but just is slow to pick things up. It might benefit him to be around someone like that.
Plus, he never has to see the field, and there's that.
And that.
Now let's talk about some backup situations here. Ryan Fitzpatrick, Bill. Uh, let's pack him up and send him to the Dolphins as a backup. What do you
Back to
think?
the Dolphins.
Back to the Dolphins? I don't think that's very likely. I mean, it's fun to talk about. I mean, he's more likely to end up in Pittsburgh than Miami, but I mean, once again, he's a guy who there'll be some interest. Now, more teams will be looking at him as a slash bridge than a starter.
Right.
But I don't see why he would go back to Miami to back up a guy that he actually beat out for the starting job.
Yeah, you can't do that. There's too much. Yeah, what Bill said. You can't do that. Somebody's going to pay that beard some money, though. People
Somebody
love that
will.
beard. They're
What
going
do
to pay
you,
him.
who do you think, Don?
I don't know. I don't know who would pay it. I would say again, maybe the Texans. I don't know. The Texans are looking for some help.
That's probably a good call.
I just don't. It's one of those things where you can't really put your thumb on it. I mean, he's good, but how much you're willing to pay him? That's the point. I don't think any team is going to invest a whole lot in him just because of his age.
What do you think, Clint?
Maybe he can just stay in Washington and back up Heineke. I don't know. He's a career, and don't get me wrong. I know he's been a starter. He's a career backup. Yeah. Back to the point of there not being enough good quarterbacks. He has 2 or 3 weeks where he looks amazing, and then he plays like Ryan Fitzpatrick. So, yeah, but he's another backup guy, or unless you want to send him to a garbage place like Houston where they'll take whoever they can get.
Don't sleep on that Houston thing though. Houston would be the kind of team if they can trade Deshaun Jackson, get a boatload of picks. They got to rebuild anyway. That's the kind of guy they would pay for a year.
Andy Dalton to the Giants. What do you think, Clint?
Well, you wonder what the Giants are going to do, because it does feel like that kid he's leaving, right? He's not going to stay with that mess. So, yeah, I guess. But, I mean, who knows? Denver right now likes bad quarterbacks, so maybe Andy Dalton comes here. I don't
know. Bill, what do you think?
I mean, I don't know if the Giants make that much. I mean, the Giants are probably not looking to get older at the quarterback position. I mean, they're a bad team, and they're likely to be firing everybody, right? GM, coach. I mean, they're probably going to blow it up and start over again. They're not. I mean, if you're looking at sort of like a veteran bridge, there's cheaper options, including the aforementioned Ryan Fitzpatrick. Plus, isn't Dalton still under contract to the Bears again next year? I think, yeah. So somebody'd have to trade for him. And like I said, I don't see the Giants giving up assets to get older at a position when they're about to blow up and rebuild their team yet again, right? Because
then we can always go to WTF. If not the Giants,
I mean,
where
that actually makes slightly more sense than any other places you've tried to throw him so far. In that, assuming their defense rebounds next year, which it should. I mean, I can't imagine they'd be this bad on defense again next year. And their offense is sort of just don't mess it up. But that's the issue, is that Dalton doesn't always know how to just not mess it up. And once again, they're going to probably draft a younger player. So I guess he'd be sort of a, bridge quarterback. So, I mean, you could do worse, I guess, but still you have to trade for him. I mean, I think more likely if he's a backup quarterback someplace next year, it's probably still Chicago.
Don? Where's the stepchild go?
like I said, some people are meant to be starters. Some people are just meant to be backups. Some people are meant to be practice squad. But he's a backup.
Did I get you on this one, Clint?
Yes.
Okay. I got you, Demetrius, right?
Oh no, you can skip me on Andy Dalton though. That's fine. The guy's covered it. The guy's covered it. I don't even know if he's still a starter in the league. That would be my only. But I think the guy's covered it.
Well, then let's go to our last gentleman here, Clint. Demetrius. Tyrod Taylor.
So this is easy.
I'm sending you to the Titans.
Okay, I don't know. This is easy. Whatever team drafts a quarterback high, they're gonna sign Tyrod Taylor because his job is keeping the seat warm. That he has made a career out of being a seat heater, like the button in the car that warm. That's what he does. That's his career. So whoever he signs with, they're drafting a quarterback. That's how that works. No, so honestly, I think I don't. This one's hard. You know, I honestly think that Tyrod Taylor might end up with my Lions because I don't know if everyone feels the way I feel about Jared Goff. So there might be an opening, and we might need somebody to keep a seat warm because we have 2 first-round picks and an early second. And so if your boy Kenny Pickett's sitting there at 35, will we pick again? Or we might take a receiver from Alabama. I don't know. Or the Rams pick at 24. We might be the team that drafts a young player. And, you know, based on my theory, Detroit becomes a decent spot for Tyrod because I think in that place, Jared Goff's still a starting NFL quarterback. He just might not be our future. So we might move on from him. And Tyrod would be a good fit to hold the seat for 5 games until our training staff punctures his lung or some shit like that. And then the young kid is ready. Something like that. That's what I see happening.
Bill, Tyrod Taylor.
There's a few good fits for Tyrod. I'll throw out one that no one's probably thinking. I wouldn't be shocked if Tampa Bay decides to upgrade their backup spot. I'm sure they love Blaine Gabbert, but I think we all would rank Tyrod above Blaine Gabbert if, God forbid, something happens to their, by next year, 45-year-old quarterback. That's a crazy thing to even say. Think about how crazy it is to say that. He is going to, if he already is playing against the sons of guys. Oh, yeah, right. He has guys on his team that he played against their fathers, like Antoine Winfield Jr. He played against his dad, right? So I'm sure they love Blaine Gabbert, but at some point you say to yourself, all it takes is somebody rolling into the ankle of our quarterback or whatever it is, and all of a sudden this all falls apart. So I could see them maybe making a move for him. And obviously all of the bad teams that have a hole at quarterback should definitely consider him. But he's a better quarterback than people realize. He just, for whatever reason, he's a bit. I would like to remind people that this is the guy that broke the longest playoff drought in post-merger or some crazy amount of time when he got the Buffalo Bills back to the playoffs for the first time since Jim Kelly was the quarterback, I believe. Or no, Flutie. Since Flutie. Sorry, it's Flutie. Flutie was last time. But they've gone from Flutie to Tyrod without getting in the playoffs. He's a better player than people realize. And he's had some bad luck. He's been in some bad situations. We'll never forget old Dr. Needle. But I think he could start. He's not a top-tier starter, but he's an NFL starter. So either he'll get to be one of the best backups, maybe the best backup, if he goes to a place like Tampa Bay, if they decide to upgrade from Gabbert, or he'll be starting someplace where they just haven't figured out the quarterback position.
Any of those words sound familiar, Clint?
Yeah. I want to kind of go with what Demetrius said, that Tyrod Taylor is kind of our modern day Steve DeBerg, and that he just is keeping seat warms for players that come in and take over. So based on that, yeah, there are a number of places that he could go. And he's a bargain. He's not going to cost your team a ton of money. So there's a number of different places that he could go and compete for a starting job, hold a starting job temporarily, and be an okay backup. So there, you could throw a dart and probably find a place for him to go. A little advice: get out of Houston. That's a dumpster fire.
Don, your thoughts on Tyrod Taylor, and give us your final thoughts for the evening, my man. Glad to have you sitting in with us. I know, I would venture to say that we'll have a 3-hour show tonight. Considering that
full 3 hours of Don Hayes tonight.
Unless we don't give Bill any final thoughts. But anyway,
Unprovoked. Oh.
Go ahead, Don.
My final thoughts. Pittsburgh, my God, I just can't get over this game. I'm sorry, I've been distracted. I've been watching this. Two terrible teams, and someone had to lose. But okay. My final thoughts on Tyrod Taylor. I think Clint said yes, he is the Steve DeBerg of this generation, and I'm just like, in my mind, I haven't heard Steve DeBerg in years. That's all kind of memories. But
the Buccaneers had a whole different logo then, didn't they?
They did. But I think Tyrod Taylor can. He's somewhere between a starter and a backup. So he's not as backupy as other guys, but is that a word, backupy?
It is now.
It is now.
It is now.
It is now, and at 10:52 in the PM. I'm not used to being up this late, guys. I'm sorry, but my final thoughts is I'm really excited about this NIL deal. UT just signed a deal where every offensive lineman gets $50,000 a year.
Yep.
Just to show up at a children's hospital, sign a couple of footballs, $50,000. I was born way, way, way too early. But y'all guys have a great night. I need to hit the bed.
All right, Don.
I gotta be up in the morning. All right.
Have a good one, Don.
All right, Don.
Thanks
Good seeing you, man.
All right. Bill, what's your final thoughts for the evening?
Well, I mean, first of all, rest in peace, Demaryius Thomas, gone just a few days before his 34th birthday. But my main thing, and I guess I should have done this on your Monday show, on the 8th of December of 1969, the Los Angeles headquarters on 41st Street and Central, 41st and Central, I think, of the Black Panther Party were raided in the first raid in history by what was called a Special Weapons and Tactics Squad, later known as SWAT teams. 350 officers in total were involved in a three-pronged attack against their headquarters and two other Panther safe houses, and against approximately 13 Black Panthers, which included a couple of women and about 4 teenagers. And 6 people were injured. I don't think no one was killed in that particular raid, but 6 people were injured. It was a classic case of overkill. It came just a few days after Mark Clark and Fred Hampton were murdered in their sleep by the Chicago Police Department. It's easy for us, with all the talk about gun rights and all the talk about these things that are going on and all the shootings, things like that, to remember that the state of California, right, with Reagan as governor, became one of the first states in the West to ban open carry, and for one reason only, the Black Panthers, right? And for the first time before or since, the NRA was silent and, in fact, supported Reagan when he took away open carry. So this is a very complicated country, full of lots of complicated things and complicated issues. But some things are not so complicated. Some things are shockingly and sadly simple. The reason we have a Black Lives Matter movement and need one is because of some of the things that have happened in this country, including the FBI initiating things like COINTELPRO to try to undermine efforts of people like the Black Panthers and others before anything had happened, right? I mean, they didn't wait until they did something. They first began to infiltrate and try to create rifts internally within the organization and between the organization and others, like Maulana Karenga's United Slaves, which led to a deadly shootout where 2 people were killed, all because they didn't want to see people exercise their rights to defend themselves, right? In a nation built so much on supposedly those same rights. I hope that every single one of us, as we think about all the things that we have that make this country so great, also remember there's so many things, so many miles still to go, right? So much to still happen. We would love to not have to have these discussions, to not have to think about these things. I don't study history simply for pleasure, though I do. I study it to give context to everything that's still happening today. And so my final thought is that hopefully there will come a time when I don't have to be aware at all times, right, of my surroundings the way that I am. That I don't have to always be careful about the things I say and the things I do in the way that I do. And they don't have to always be conscious of how others perceive me, so that I am not seen in such a way that someone might feel threatened or see me as someone who's dangerous or see me as someone that about whom they need to be careful, though they might actually need to be careful. But I don't want them to think that they need to be careful. That's my final thought.
Well, hey, Bill, as always, good talking with you. Good having you on the show. You always have a lot to bring to the show, and you always have some very provoking final thoughts. Let's see. Well, wow. I don't know whether to go to my former token white boy or
Go to Mr. Bailey. I'll wait.
Okay. Clint, what's up, man? Glad to see you, man. It's been a
Yes.
while.
Good to have you back.
Good to have you back, man. I know you're very busy, so hey, we appreciate anytime you can drop in on Thursday, and of course, hey, we're on time as usual. So, so Clint, as a matter of fact, this might I don't know. Well,
no, we're not even close to the record. We're
not close. Okay.
No, I have to do a 20-minute final thought to get us to the record, and I'm not.
Okay. Well, Clint, you got 10 minutes then. No, go ahead.
As much time as you need, bro.
Hey, thanks for having me back. It's fun to come back in, and it is busy time of year. I started last year. When I got out of coaching, so I could, spend more time with my kids, because I was like, enough with other people's kids. I want to spend time with my kids. So, but last year I started where the high school that she goes to, I know the varsity coach there pretty well. And I film the games for each program so that they can go back and watch with their kids and get scouts on other teams and that kind of thing. So usually Thursday nights are game nights. And so I'm out filming and doing that kind of thing. I guess my final thought would be, and one, just first off, thanks for having me back. Thanks for still having this available. And it's fun just to come back in and to hear everything and to talk nonsense with everybody. And it's just, it's fun to be back in. But I was filming the opener this year, and here in Colorado, at least, it's masks, but crowds are back. It's back. And I'm filming the opener. Now, last year I filmed, there were nights, not every night, but most nights until the very end of the season, getting into the spring, I was the only person at the game. There were nights that even parents weren't allowed to watch the game. So I was filming and they were live streaming the film that I was shooting to YouTube so that parents could watch it, because you couldn't watch it. I was filming this year, opening night 2 weeks ago, and the student section was there for the girls' game. Pretty good student section. And as the game started and we scored the first basket, there was this explosion of sound that hasn't been there for over a year. You could see the girls on the floor almost start to tear up. We haven't heard that. We didn't get to experience that. Some of those kids are seniors. They haven't got to experience what it's like to play in front of a live actual crowd. I would encourage you, mask up, do whatever. Go check out some of your local teams, because some of these kids, they haven't gotten to do that. And we took that for granted when we were kids. You just go play, and mom and dad came. There's a lot of games. There's a lot of situations. Mom and dad can't even go watch them. They played in a dead silent gym. They were the only kids there. That was it. Coaches, players, nobody else allowed in the gym. To see their faces when that wall of noise came out on the crowd, it was absolutely amazing to see those kids just like, we haven't got to do it. It scared me. I kind of was like, wow. I jumped back a little bit. It was really, really cool to see those kids get to play in front of a live crowd again. And like I said, hey, be safe, do whatever you have to do, wear your mask if you need to, whatever you got to do. But for those kids, it's not like the NBA. They don't get, well, we'll just do it next year. When it's over, it's over. I'm so happy that some of these kids are being able to get out there and experience this and get a chance maybe to go play at another level, at least enjoy their final, seasons and that kind of thing. Things that we've taken for granted that these kids, it's kind of all brand new to them. I'm really excited for the kids that are getting to play again.
Hey, thank you so much, Clint.
Excellent.
Drop by anytime. I faithfully send you an invitation every week.
You do, and I appreciate that. I'll come in whenever I can. I'll be in.
All right, Clint. You have an amazing week, and we look forward to talking to you whenever you get here. Demetrius.
Yeah, so normally I try and recognize someone, but the guys have both touched me in different ways, and for some reason in my mind, Bill, I think you're an educator of some sort. I'm not exactly sure what you do for a living, but I feel like you might be an educator of some sort. And listening to Clint both drop a 30-year-old reference to a commercial about an hour ago and talk multiple times tonight about his daughter takes me to so Oxford, Michigan is like 30 miles south of my hometown of Flint. Right. And this is not a gun thing. That might be a conversation, but that's not the one I want to have. I want to have the parenting one, right? We got to be better, right? And the commercial Clint referenced changed my whole final thoughts. I was going to do a whole sports thing, and I thought about that, and I started thinking about Oxford, and it resonated with kids. Kids listen to you sometimes, not always. Your kids listen. Your kids see everything you do. And like the kid in the commercial said, I learned by watching you. We have duty, responsibility aren't strong enough. You guys might need to help me with the word. This moral obligation to teach our kids issue resolution skills. There are so many things that we should see. If you're looking at your kids, you should see that stuff. You should see those signs. I'm not calling anybody a bad parent. I'm standing on the soapbox, absolutely, saying we have to be better. We should know. And if we taught issue resolution, again, not a gun conversation, but that wouldn't be the first option. If there's someone bullying your kid should be able to come to you. I feel comfortable. Well, he's 31 years old now, but I felt comfortable back then that my son would come home and talk to me about that. I would come home and talk to, at minimum, my older brother or my sister or my mom or dad. I don't know what happened to that, where the idea that the only option I have to resolve this, whatever this is I'm going through, is the answer that is so often chosen. That is really hard for me to think about right now. But four beautiful young people are gone. They're gone. And I don't know why. And I'll never know why. We will never know why. What I know is that it didn't have to happen. It didn't have to happen. So I am slightly political. If you don't agree with me, I apologize for that. Proud and thrilled that the prosecutor in Oakland County, Michigan decided to prosecute the parents.
Yep.
I'm thrilled. And you don't have to agree with me. I'm just explaining how I feel. I think this could be a watershed moment where people start to think about what is my obligation to my children, right? To society through my children. And I will tell you that I might have been 12. I feel like I was 11. And my dad said something that resonates with me to this very day. like 40 years later. He said, things you do aren't just about you. And that's my last name. I just let you use it. That's what he said to me. And I'm like, what? It's on my birth certificate. He says, no, that's my last name. So you do something stupid, they're talking about Matt's son. The ladies at the bingo hall are talking about Mary's boy. It's not just about you. And that simple comment that he made in passing one random Tuesday morning stayed with me my whole life. Was that, wow, if I do something, it reflects on so many. And even like now, I live in a different city. So people see me wearing shirts like this, and they take all of their thoughts and feelings about the city of Detroit or the state of Michigan, they apply it to me, right? Because that's what it is. So if I do something stupid, someone will say the dude from Detroit did that stupid thing, right? And label my city or the dude from Flint, whatever it is. But children, they will never tell you, but they need us. They rely on us. Like as the parent, you are their source. And I feel like people don't take that specific responsibility seriously enough. And my mom and dad were like, you can talk through anything. You and your brother fighting, fine. But when you're done, we're going to talk. Because you two adults, a father and son, a mother and daughter should be able to sit down and have a conversation and resolve most issues. There are things, mental illness that are beyond my scope. And I'm not talking about that stuff. As a parent, you owe your kid, you owe society, you owe yourself. Be better. We just got to be better. And there are some great parents, and I'm not talking to everybody. But if you're one of those people and you saw those two people trying to run, I don't know who tries to run from the FBI in 2021, that's just not going to work. But just as the parenting piece, let's just be better, because that's what this is. It's not a gun issue. This is a parenting. This is a people being better to people. And so when I'm on this podcast with a guy who's a Bronco fan and two Steeler fans, to me, you guys are all Lion fans. You're my dudes. I'm going to treat you like you're all wearing Lion shirts. And that's my new motto. I treat everybody like they got on a Lion shirt, no matter who they are, until they give me a reason not to. That's a simple thing. I would treat James's cat like he's wearing a Lion shirt. He all up in the camera. Ain't he supposed to be on the podcast? But in all seriousness, we got to be better as parents. I don't say we. My son's 31. My job is
about you over there, Chronic.
Maybe, but that hurt, and I was glad that they went that route. It's unfortunate they had to go that route, but I think it's kind of a watershed moment in this kind of thing, where now there are parents who have questions about their kids. They know they'll be prosecuted if their kid does something. So even if you don't want to go to Matthew Verges route and say that's not really your name, it's mine, which is very effective, and you might want to try it. At least sit down and have that conversation. Make sure your kid knows they can talk to you. Make sure your kid knows they're safe and they can come to you, because they won't make choices like this. They won't choose that option. They'll come to you. And maybe it's a brother or a sister or an uncle, someone. I was blessed to have so many people that had I gotten into any kind of struggle like that, I had so many options of people to talk to and say, I'm struggling with this. This is bothering me. And I feel like as parents, we stopped giving our kids that safe place. And so they make choices like this. And obviously it's close to me because of the proximity. But it's always sad, and something's got to be done. So my plea is just as parents, let's be better. Let's be better.
Great thought.
Great thought. Well, thank you guys. Hopefully everybody can return next week. If you're around, Clint, we do a Saturday show now called And the Winners Are. And we do the fantasy football. I have a 5 or 6 bold predictions before Christmas that I put up this week. I think I already sent it out to everyone. But if you want to join us on Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock my time, which would be 1 o'clock your time, I believe.
No, probably noon for him, right? Yeah, noon for Clint, 1 for Bill and I. And I'm really good at picking Clint, especially baseball. I was killing it. The exact opposite. Every one of my picks was wrong in the baseball playoffs. Like, no. It's like I've never watched a baseball game before. Yeah.
Hey, guys. Let's get up out of here, man. It's a little bit after midnight. Actually, it's what, 11 o'clock? 11
for us and 10 for Clint. So I think we're all good. And it's like dinner time for you. So
it's about 9.
Sun's almost down. About that.
It's about 9-ish or so. Hey, and interesting enough, it rained in Southern California today. So just a note on the weather.
Tony said it never rained.
I know. Evidently, he didn't live here. But hey, have a great weekend, you guys. Hope to see you guys on Saturday, man. And as always, be safe.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great week.
Yeah.